In Beijing, North City's Purin Hospital, there is such a female doctor. She is gentle and patient and listens to patients' occasional complaints. So most people like her very much. But for her own personal lifelong matters, she's not so concerned. Just after finishing surgery, without time to rest, her message alert keeps ringing. This is our Dr. Su Sui. As expected, it's about blind dates again. Previously arranged ones were all postponed by her using work as an excuse. Su Sui looks at her phone, feeling helpless. Perhaps this is a common problem for every parent. Urging marriage. However, as Su Sui prepares to reply to her mother's message, she receives a new message. And that new message turns out to be her previous post on a forum. What's the funniest thing you did during your secret crush period as a student? After many years, someone still likes and replies to her answer. In her second year of high school, Su Sui had a secret crush. One day, they both wore blue t-shirts to school. Although it was just an ordinary t-shirt, she secretly considered it a couple outfit. Maybe God saw her struggling with her secret crush and sent this sweet coincidence. From then on, Su Sui often wore this shirt, even fantasizing the night before if he would wear a blue t-shirt the next day. Until one day, Su Sui discovered that his shirt was a 9.99 yuan t-shirt his girlfriend randomly bought at the supermarket to meet the minimum purchase. At that moment, Su Sui completely woke up. She also understood one thing, that is, he might never notice her existence. As Su Sui looks at her answer from years ago, about to hide it, a new reply pops up. Miss, do you still like him now? The meaning in her eyes deepens. A moment later, Su Sui doesn't reply. She resolutely exits the app. Then she picks up her phone and gives her mother an answer. Mom, I'll go on the blind date. Looking at the planes taking off nearby, Su Sui's thoughts wander. She falls into silence again, as if her youth has also departed. After graduating from university, Su Sui reluctantly agreed to her mother's blind date arrangement. The blind date is with a lawyer. They chat quite well. After dinner, Lin Wenxin suggests taking a walk nearby. Su Sui thinks for a moment. Since they're already out for a blind date, there's no need to be shy. She finally nods. Below the restaurant is a street food alley. It's currently the busiest time. In a corner of the food street, with the click of a lighter, a man lights a cigarette. Then he takes a deep drag. Boss, don't stress yourself too much. Just treat this as a break. The man suddenly leans back, heavily resting on the chair back. The man is called Zhou Jinza, a pilot. He's temporarily back in Beijing North for certain reasons. The person next to him is his college classmate, Cheng Yu, who came out specially today to keep him company. Boss, you rarely get to rest. Just look at some beautiful women and relax. But Zhou Jinza still looks tired. He holds a cigarette between his fingers, smoke rising slowly, looking cool and indifferent. At the same time, he doesn't forget to warn him. If you keep looking around, I'll tell your wife directly. Despite saying this, Cheng Yu's eyes light up, following someone in the distance. Boss, look, there's a fresh-looking one over there. She looks like she's from the south. Hearing the word south, Zhou Jinza instinctively looks up. His black eyes scan over. Then he pauses for a moment. The person indeed has typical southern features. Fair skin and bright almond eyes, wearing an apricot-colored knit dress. She has a boyfriend, huh? But these two look like they just met, probably on a blind date. However, they both have a refined aura. They seem quite compatible, Cheng Yu comments. After Cheng Yu finishes speaking, he feels the surrounding air suddenly turn cold. Glancing over, he sees Zhou Jinza violently stubbing out his cigarette in the ashtray. Then he sees him stand up and leave without saying a word. Cheng Yu is completely bewildered, assuming it's just because of his bad mood. Su Sui doesn't notice the commotion here and is walking side by side with Lin Wenxin through the food street. As they're about to reach the end, they hear some struggles from the alley entrance. It turns out an old lady selling sweet soup is being harassed by some drunk troublemakers. The troublemakers demand compensation, claiming the food tastes bad or they'll wreck her stall. The old lady falls to her knees, helpless. She only earns a few dozen yuan after a hard day's work. Where would she get money to compensate? Su Sui initially had no intention of interfering, but the old lady's pleading voice suddenly reminds her of her grandmother. As Su Sui is about to walk over, Lin Wenxin grabs her, saying, "Don't go. It's better to mind our own business. It would be terrible if we get caught up with those thugs or the old lady tries to extort us." Su Sui decisively shakes off his hand. Then she looks at Lin Wenxin, curling her lips. I like being extorted. Seeing the thugs have steel pipes, Lin Wunshin doesn't take a step forward. Watching Su sways back, he doesn't try to pull her back again. He hurriedly escapes. As the thugs are getting worked up, Su Sui interrupts them. How much money do you want? I'll compensate. Su Sui's face remains calm, thinking the situation is simple, believing that paying would solve everything. However, when the thugs see it's a beautiful woman, their eyes light up instantly. They burst into laughter. One of them reaches for her shoulder. Since little sister is pleading, we'll let it go. Just have a drink with us, brother. But something unexpected happens. Su Sui twists his wrist backward. She twists it hard, making a cracking sound. The thug is immediately in agony, screaming continuously. The thug releases his hand in pain, his face completely darkening. He raises his palm, about to slap her. Su Sui is startled by this sudden attack. She closes her eyes, preparing to be hit. In an instant, a slender hand with 5 distinct fingers appears out of nowhere, firmly stopping the thug's slap. It's Zhou Jinza, now looking seriously at the people in front of him. Unable to stand seeing the thugs bullying the old lady selling sweet soup, he steps in to help. However, the drunk thugs turn to attack Su Sui. Su Sui closes her eyes tightly, preparing to be hit. But after a while, nothing happens. Su Sui curiously opens her eyes. She then realizes that this tall, handsome man has blocked the slap for her. And this man is none other than Zhou Jinza. Afterward, Su Sui crouches down, helps the old lady up, and tidies up her things. She watches as the old lady slowly pushes her tricycle away. Suddenly remembering that Zhou Jinza is still fighting with the thugs, Su Sui quickly turns back. Is he okay? However, she finds that the brawl ended as quickly as it began. Zhou Jinza fought 4 against 1, and the thugs fled in disarray. Zhou Jinza calmly takes out a cigarette and puts it in his mouth. In the light of the flame, several scratches are visible on his face, though they're relatively minor. Zhou Jinza doesn't seem to mind, taking a deep drag of his cigarette nonchalantly. Then he tilts his head back to look at the starry sky, exhaling a faint blue smoke. Suddenly, he turns his head, his dark and sharp eyes staring at Su Sui beside him. Without warning, he takes large strides towards her. Su Sui's heart skips a beat under Zhou Jinza's gaze, and she instinctively takes a step back. Seeing her familiar reaction, Zhou Jinza presses his tongue against his left cheek, chuckling. Don't you have anything to say? Su Sui sees him still with that carefree, indifferent attitude and remains silent. A moment later, Su Sui starts to speak, her tone unexpectedly distant. Thanks for tonight. I'm leaving now. After saying this, Su Sui walks towards the alley entrance. Zhou Jinza is stunned, his tone somewhat gritting. You're on a blind date? Su Sui maintains her silence, not even pausing for half a second. She had imagined countless scenarios of their reunion, but never thought that when it actually happened, they would skip even basic greetings. 8 years ago, Su Sui asked Zhou Jinza to meet at the school's playground. Before Zhou Jinza could speak, Su Sui said those heart-wrenching words first. Let's break up. Zhou Jinza was stunned, looking straight at her. After a long while, he slowly spoke. What did you say? Su Sui lowered her head, tears in her eyes. The tears fell, drip by drip, seemingly full of grievances. In her heart, she only hoped that the person she loved would have eyes only for her, to love her wholeheartedly. So let's end it here. Early autumn in October, the heat hadn't dissipated, the air was thick and humid, but it gave a chilling coldness, making it hard to breathe. The next second, Su Sui suddenly wakes up, realizing it was all just a dream. But it wasn't just a dream, it was something that had really happened and was imprinted in Su Sui's heart. As Su Sui ponders, a knock on the door interrupts her. Dr. Su, emergency. It turns out a bored young girl had stuffed a light bulb in her mouth and couldn't get it out. Kids, please don't try this at home. Don't ever try this, okay? However, before Su Sui enters the consultation room, she hears laughter from inside. The office door is pushed open, and Su Sui walks in, freezing on the spot. The people inside turn their heads at the sound, and it's none other than Zhou Jinza, whom she had just met last night. Su Sui stares at him in surprise. At that moment, the surrounding air seems to freeze, with only the cicadas outside telling the story. When you see your ex-boyfriend again, what would you do? Su Sui thought last night's encounter was just a brief passing. She didn't expect to see Zhou Jinzu again at the hospital the next day. However, Zhou Jinzu is accompanying a little girl. The girl has a light bulb stuck in her mouth, and she's anxiously tearing up, making muffled sounds. Su Sui ignores Zhou Jinzu, takes the protective gloves from the nurse, and walks straight to the little girl. She then bends down, holds the girl's chin, and examines her carefully. She finds the light bulb perfectly stuck in her mouth. The size is just right. When she hears Su Sui say they'll use a hammer to pry it open, the little girl nervously grabs Zhou Jinzu's sleeve tightly. The interaction between the two seems intimate, catching Su Sui's eye. She lowers her gaze, hiding the emotions in her eyes. When the colleague brings the hammer, the little girl freezes on the spot. She didn't expect they were actually going to use it. Su Sui looks her up and down. Given the situation, they must distract the little girl. She notices the girl seems to have dressed up specially today. She then casually asks, "Are you planning to go out today?" Just as the little girl is about to answer, Su Sui places her hand on her jaw and forcefully pulls down without mercy. There's a cracking sound of glass breaking. The girl is stunned for 2 seconds, then reacts with a loud scream. Zhou Jinzu says nothing, just standing aside and chuckling. He then pats her head. "All right, I'll take you for ice cream later." The girl immediately calms down and stops fussing. Su Sui watches the scene before her. She's lost in thought. He rarely comforts people. Just a few kind words, and women would surrender willingly. The rest is left to the outpatient doctor. Su Sui takes off her protective gloves, throws them in the trash bin, and puts her hands in her white coat pockets. She leaves the outpatient department. Zhou Jinzu turns his head, his gaze fixed on her back as she leaves. He notices that the hair tie at the back of Su Sui's head is loosened a bit, and a strand of hair falls on her cheek. Su Sui returns to her office, works for half an hour, then goes out. As she passes the nurse's station, a young nurse calls out to her. "Hey, Dr. Su, someone was looking for you earlier." It was the family member of the patient with the light bulb in her mouth. The nurse then points to the desk. "They left something for you. Said it's to thank you. A simple hair tie and your favorite lychee, white peach milk." Her gaze lingers. After all this time, he still remembers. Su Sui unconsciously touches the hair tie at the back of her head. She stands there dazed again, not hearing what others are saying. She just nods, her expression extremely calm, and tells them to share the items among themselves. Su Sui, who was initially avoiding the situation, turns and walks forward. But at a nearby corner, she sees Zhou Jinzu and the girl beside him. The girl is dressed fashionably, with striking looks, bright red lips, and an alluring figure. Earlier in the ward, Su Sui had already witnessed this girl's skill at acting coy. She looks up. The girl is shaking Zhou Jinzu's arm, saying something, clearly acting coy. Zhou Jinzu's face shows no expression, but his eyes are relaxed. He's obviously falling for it. Su Sui's hands in her pockets unconsciously tighten, her fingertips turning white. The pain brings her back to reality. Isn't he always like this? He likes the seductive, bold type. She's too well-behaved, too proper. Good students were never his type. Facing this situation, Su Sui can only walk past. They clearly see her too. The girl calls out to her with a bright smile. "Dr. Su, thank you for earlier." Su Sui shakes her head. "No need, it's our job." The girl stands next to Zhou Jinzu. She glances at the man. She clearly feels that after seeing this Dr. Su, her brother's mood has changed. Even his expression has become serious. There must be something between these two. The girl's eyes dart around. "Dr. Su, do you know my cousin?" "Cousin?" So she's just a sister. The girl leans closer to Su Sui, very playfully. "I feel like you two have an unusual relationship." But the girl's question is too bold and direct. Su Sui can't handle it and doesn't know how to answer for a moment. She looks up at Zhou Jinzu, hoping he would do something. Zhou Jinzu has one hand in his pocket. Seeing Su Sui's flustered state and blushing cheeks, he feels like teasing her. He looks straight at Su Sui, his tongue pressing against his lower jaw. He chuckles softly, his tone meaningful. "Well, tell us, what kind of relationship do we have? Whether it's ambiguous or romantic." He leaves it up to her to define. Su Sui understands from his lazy, teasing manner. A golden boy like him probably never understands what it's like to truly like someone. Perhaps he never really cared about her at all. Zhou Jinzu originally just wanted to make a joke. As soon as he said it, he regretted it, because he saw disappointment slowly creeping into Su Sui's clear eyes. A feeling akin to panic spreads in his heart, expanding endlessly. Zhou Jinza clears his throat, about to say something, when he sees Su Sui blink, and all her previous emotions vanish completely. Her gaze is calm, her tone frank. "It's okay if you don't know me. As the saying goes, women in medicine aren't scary. What's scary is that they know how to dissect." Anyway, enough small talk, let's get to the point. When Su Sui first started university, WeChat had just become popular not long ago. It was in October of that year that Su Sui and Zhou Jinza officially crossed paths. Their batch of students broke tradition by starting with anatomy class. As newcomers, the lab was in chaos. Only Su Sui's area was running smoothly. She completed the entire process of injection and dissection in one go, her movements clean and fluid. A small round of applause erupted around her. Faced with everyone's praise, Su Sui remained humble and focused on her work. At this time, her roommate Liang Shuang came over, wanting to learn how she did it all. Su Sui gladly agreed. Despite Su Sui's careful guidance, Liang Shuang was still too nervous, her hands shaking nonstop. With the roar of a plane taking off outside the window, the needle in her hand unsurprisingly pierced the wrong spot. Blood began to ooze from the frog's thigh. Liang Shuang got angry and couldn't help but complain about the nearby airport. However, when Su Sui heard the word pilot, her heart tightened. She then nonchalantly returned to the lab bench to observe the data. As she was lost in thought, a shout brought her back to reality. Bai Yue from the red team was playing with her phone while asking Su Sui for help. The idea was that she would do the assignment alone, but both their names would be on the final product. Su Sui looked at the experiment, which was mostly complete, and nodded without much emotion. She didn't care much about this kind of thing. Time passed slowly due to laziness. By the time it ended, it was past midnight. As she looked up and took off her gloves, she froze. Liang Shuang came over, clearly waiting for her, and then pinched her cheek. Her face felt quite nice to touch. After Su Sui changed her clothes, Liang Shuang dragged her down the stairs in a rush. She was muttering about potato and pork ribs. In the cafeteria, the two finally got their food and sat down. A boy wearing glasses came over with his tray, stammering to ask if he could sit with them. Despite his gentle and harmless face, Su Sui mercilessly rejected his request. Liang Shuang sat across from her, examining Su Sui. Her small face was fair with a hint of pink, almond-shaped eyes, and dimples when she smiled. Her hair was neatly tied back, with some unruly bangs falling on her forehead. A typical Southern Chinese look, delicate from every angle. "Su Sui, do you know? Our department's forum is holding a beauty contest vote. You're on the candidate list." Su Sui didn't show much reaction to this. She inserted a straw into her milk carton. Covering her face, she said she was really ordinary in high school, the type that would blend into the crowd. But now everything has changed. Just Liang Shuang alone has seen several guys rejected by Su Sui. Sometimes she doesn't even understand what type Su Sui likes. Su Sui bit the straw without moving. A playboy's face appeared in her mind, but she quickly suppressed it. Shaking her head, she said, "I don't know either." At 5 p.m., Su Sui stood on the rooftop of the school's political science building, feeling the breeze. The evening wind rustled the test papers spread on the railing, like white doves about to take flight. As Su Sui was lost in thought, her phone vibrated. It was her mother calling. Su Sui answered. Her mother asked about her studies and life, then shifted the topic to the weather. She really didn't understand why Su Sui had to go to Jingmei University. Standing on the rooftop, Su Sui couldn't help but ask herself why she had to come here. This must be madness. As she was lost in thought, suddenly, a moan came from around the corner, accompanied by a coquettish smell. Two people were standing against the wall around the corner. The girl was tall and slender, her entire body pressed against him, their posture intimate. The boy was leaning against the wall, his clothes hanging loosely on his body. The girl was confessing to the boy. The boy didn't say much in response, exuding laziness, just chuckling softly. How much did he like her? The wind stopped, and the evening's fiery clouds were intense and bright. Su Sui felt hot and stuffy. She couldn't stay there any longer. How could it be him? While Su Sui was spacing out on the rooftop, she suddenly heard people being lovey-dovey. However, when she looked over, she froze in place. At that moment, the boy suddenly turned his head and looked over. Their gazes collided in midair. The boy's hair was extremely short, revealing his temples. His eyelid creases were shallow, his pupils black and nonchalant. The curve of his jawline was smooth, and his prominent Adam's apple slowly bobbed up and down as he tilted his head back slightly. The wind stopped, and the evening's fiery clouds were intense and bright. Su Sui felt hot and stuffy. She couldn't stay there any longer. A strong gust of evening wind rushed into her throat, making it dry and unable to utter a word. Su Sui fled in panic. The conversation between the girl and the boy carried clearly to her ears on the wind. She heard Bai Yue ask softly, "What are you spacing out for? Did you see someone you know?" The boy's voice was cold, almost metallic, as 3 words rolled out of his throat. "Don't know her." Liang Shuang looked at the pitch-black dormitory corridor. She couldn't help but sigh that art students were indeed bold. It was already midnight, and Bai Yue still hadn't returned. Su Sui froze. The intimate scene from the evening flashed in her mind, along with Zhou Jinza's arrogant gaze. Her heart felt constricted, as if bound by threads. She lowered her eyelashes and said faintly she should be back soon. She didn't want to continue discussing this topic. Looking at the empty bed opposite, she mentioned that their new roommate was supposed to arrive tomorrow. Liang Shuang looked at Su Sui with a miserable expression, complaining that she must have been out of her mind to choose this major. Just 1 month in, and she was already losing hair. Su Sui tentatively asked if she wanted her to order some hair growth products. Liang Shuang shamelessly gave her a heart gesture. The next day, with a bang, the dormitory door flew open. Su Sui, who was reading, was startled and suddenly looked up towards the door. The new roommate had arrived, followed by 2 people carrying large and small luggage. The new roommate wore sunglasses and was dressed in designer clothes. As the 2 male students behind were about to enter, the new roommate waved her hand and said seriously, "A girl's boudoir is not a place for you smelly men to enter." The 2 male students froze at her words. Holding the luggage, they didn't know whether to stay or go. The new roommate took out a few red banknotes from her bag and handed them over. The young girl was called Hu Qinshi. She clearly came from a well-off family. But without the help of the 2 boys, Hu Qinshi struggled to carry her suitcase. Su Sui was quite enthusiastic and offered a helping hand. After everything was settled, Hu Qinshi took off her sunglasses. Only then did Su Sui get a clear look at her face. She had manga-style bangs, big eyes, and cheeks with a hint of baby fat. Her figure was slightly chubby, making her look cheerful and cute. Hu Qinshi was also naturally friendly and introduced herself, instantly breaking down any sense of distance. Seeing Su Sui standing still, Hu Qinshi extended her hand, saying, "You can call me Cici." Su Sui's face turned red, feeling a bit shy, but she still reached out confidently and shook hands with her. It was Hu Qinshi's first time living in a school dormitory. She was a bit clumsy when unpacking. When it came to putting on the duvet cover, she ended up crawling inside the sheet, cursing while trying to fit it on, but ultimately failing. Su Sui couldn't help but laugh. She patted her and said, "Let me help you." With Su Sui's assistance, the duvet cover was quickly put on neatly. Su Sui smiled. She liked Hu Qinshi too, finding her cheerful and adorable. Eventually, the 2 of them grew closer. On Friday, while Su Sui was having dinner with Liang Shuang in the cafeteria, she remembered that Hu Qinshi hadn't eaten yet in the dorm. So she texted her asking what she wanted to eat, planning to pack a meal for her. After sending the message, Su Sui put down her phone and focused on eating. Shortly after, Liang Shuang excitedly nudged her arm and whispered, "Look, Bai Yue's boyfriend has appeared." Zhou Jinza. Su Sui froze for a moment, then mechanically looked up. The cafeteria was bustling with noise. She spotted him immediately. Bai Yue's boyfriend was accompanying her in the queue. After getting her food, Bai Yue was holding a silver tray. When she turned to see Zhou Jinza again, she realized he had a new girlfriend. The girl was Su Sui's roommate, Bai Yue. Bai Yue occasionally looked up to talk to him, her eyes shining like stars when she gazed at him. Suddenly, someone brushed past, almost bumping into Bai Yue. The boy quickly raised his hand to hold her shoulder. Zhou Jinza frowned and glanced at him. Liang Shuang, watching the intimate couple, couldn't help but sigh. This was her first time seeing Zhou Jinza in person. Indeed, seeing is believing. However, she had heard that he changed girlfriends very quickly, with the longest relationship not exceeding 3 months. Su Sui's stomach began to churn, and she couldn't eat anymore. She lowered her eyes, chewing her food without tasting it. Liang Shuang, not noticing Su Sui's change, excitedly asked her, "Guess how long by you it will stay by his side this time?" Su Sui didn't want to guess the expiration date of his girlfriend. She quickly changed the subject. "How do you know his name is Zhou Jinza?" It turned out that Liang Shuang had always wanted to date a pilot, so she had been lurking on the aviation school's forum early on. Naturally, she knew about someone like him. She even knew that Zhou Jinza had his tattoo removed before the college entrance exam to pass the physical examination. Originally, Liang Shuang thought this story might be fake, but Su Sui suddenly spoke up, her tone firm. "No, it's not. It's true." Liang Shuang was stunned for 2 seconds, then winked at her. "How do you know it's true? Don't tell me you've been secretly following him too. Do you like him?" Having her girlish secret unintentionally exposed, Su Sui, who was drinking water, choked at her words. She started coughing violently, her face turning bright red. Liang Shuang immediately raised her hand to pat her back. Su Sui and Zhou Jinza were both from Tianzhong High School. They were classmates. He really didn't mean to, but explaining would be troublesome. Besides, there was no point in saying it. Zhou Jinza probably didn't remember him anyway. That day, after Su Sui saw him on the rooftop, she quickly left. Just as she opened the door to the rooftop, Zhou Jinza's voice came from behind. "I don't know you." Su Sui's hand noticeably paused. At that moment, the young girl felt a stabbing pain in her heart. She had never felt so hurt before. Encountering her crush with another girl on the rooftop, Su Sui's heart darkened. But when faced with how she knew he had his tattoo removed, Su Sui just smiled faintly and said she had guessed. However, it wasn't hard for an observant person to notice that Zhou Jinza's hand had a spot clearly different from elsewhere. Liang Shuang looked back and indeed saw an odd white patch on Zhou Jinza's hand, looking like a recently removed tattoo. At this moment, Zhou Jinza noticed the intense gaze and looked in that direction, his expression sharp. He happened to see Su Sui next to him, looking gentle. Bai Yuyue beside him also noticed Zhou Jinza's unusual behavior, but Zhou Jinza casually said it was nothing. In the afternoon, at Jinghan University's gate, Su Sui and Hu Qinqi waited for a long time, but didn't see the person they were supposed to meet. In less than 10 minutes, a certain figure came into view. Hu Qinqi looked as if she had discovered a new world. Su Sui stood to the side, looking at Beihang University's promotional text, then turned her head to look. She saw another boy following behind Zhou Jinza. Zhou Jinza had a cigarette between his fingers, walking at a leisurely pace. Hearing Hu Qinqi call out "Uncle," Zhou Jinza finally looked up. She glimpsed the crimson at his fingertips. As Zhou Jinza got closer, his prominent brow and straight nose became clearer. Her heart was beating fast, like that touch of bright red, faint but uncontrollably burning. Zhou Jinza clearly saw them too. He raised his hand, holding the cigarette to his companions, then walked towards them. A boy stood next to Jinza. When they were quite close, he raised an eyebrow and said deliberately, "Oh, isn't this Miss Qinqi?" Hu Qinqi ran over in a few steps and gave the boy a punch. The boy was called Sheng Nanzhou, Zhou Jinza's good friend. He already knew Hu Qinqi, and they were a pair of bickering buddies. Hu Qinqi remembered something and, linking arms with Su Sui, said, "This is my roommate. Her name is Su Sui." Zhou Jinza walked to the trash can and extinguished his cigarette. According to normal social etiquette, Su Sui should say something at this point, but they were standing too close, and her mind went blank. Zhou Jinza looked at the girl in front of him. A sense of familiarity flashed through his mind. Zhou Jinza was a student at Beihang University, Su Sui's high school classmate, and also the object of her secret crush. When Su Sui learned that Hu Qinqi's uncle was Zhou Jinza, her face was full of disbelief. But on second thought, it seemed he really didn't remember her. So let's get reacquainted, she thought. Finally, Su Sui gathered her courage and introduced herself. Zhou Jinza was generous and took them directly to the small restaurant on the second floor of the cafeteria for a special meal. Hu Qinqi didn't like celery, but Sheng Nanzhou insisted on making her eat it, even putting all of his into her bowl. Hu Qinqi wasn't grateful at all, and even compared him to her family's husky. While speaking, she didn't forget to glance at Zhou Jinza beside her. Zhou Jinzi tilted his head and looked at Sheng Nanzhou. Holding back a mischievous grin, he said, "You know, it really does look alike." Su Sui laughed along. Sheng Nanzhou couldn't be bothered with them and turned to look at Su Sui. "Little sister Su, you haven't introduced yourself yet. I'm Shen Nanzhou. A friend of Cici is my friend. If you need anything in the future, you can come to me. If she has any problems, she won't go to Zhou Jinzi, she'll come to you." Hu Qinshi mercilessly teased him. She turned to the other person with a smile. "Uncle, isn't that right?" Although it was a joke, Su Sui's heart tightened. She pretended to casually lower her head to eat, but was actually waiting for Zhou Jinzi's answer. Just as Zhou Jinzi was about to speak, someone walked over. A call of Zhou Yi made all four of them look up quickly. The man was Zhou Jinzi's roommate. He was quite familiar with Hu Qinshi and greeted her first. He naturally pulled up a chair and sat down next to them. Then he looked at the well-behaved Su Sui and teased, "You've changed girlfriends so quickly? Changed your taste." Su Sui felt a bit awkward being teased. She lowered her head unnaturally. However, this scene happened to catch Zhou Jinzi's eye. Delu was sitting right next to them. Zhou Jinzi pressed his tongue against his left cheek, smiled, and gestured with his hand for him to come over. Delu didn't notice at all that danger was approaching. Zhou Jinzi's slender fingers rested on the pull tab. Delu had an expression of listening to gossip as he leaned forward. Zhou Jinzi's other hand rested on his neck. With a pop, the pull tab was yanked open. White bubbles gushed out, covering Delu's face. Seeing that he had received his due punishment, Zhou Jinzi let go. Zhou Jinzi had a rebellious look on his face. He seemed too lazy to answer the question and just told him to guess. The bubbles quickly evaporated into water, lying on his face, all wet and messy. Delu looked left and right, really not understanding what was going on. Just as he was about to apologize, Su Sui took a tissue and wiped his face. Delu felt even more embarrassed. He slapped his own face and said, "Sister, I'm sorry, I was just joking with this guy." "It's okay." Su Sui's soft voice showed her good nature. Just then, a large hand quickly pulled out several tissues. It was none other than Zhou Jinzi. He slapped the tissues directly onto Delu's face. "All right, get lost." In Su Sui's eyes, Zhou Jinzi had always been like this. Never serious. When you're trying to talk to him seriously, he always pulls some little tricks to let you know that things shouldn't be this way, that you shouldn't disrespect others. He had never changed. Going with her roommate to have dinner with her uncle, she didn't expect it to be her ex-boyfriend. After dinner, Su Sui sneaked a glance. She found that he was still as unserious as ever. At this moment, Zhou Jinzi's phone suddenly rang. The caller was his new girlfriend whom he had just met recently. Luo Yue was also Su Sui's roommate. Even Hu Qinshi couldn't help but turn around curiously to see her uncle answering the phone. Su Sui stood silently to the side, listening to him talk on the phone. Seeing Zhou Jinzi's reaction, Wu Qinshi couldn't help but sigh, surprised that the two had such a relationship. And Bai Yue also didn't seem to know that Zhou Jinzi was her roommate's uncle. Su Sui was a bit confused and couldn't help but ask, "How is Zhou Jinzi your uncle?" Wu Qinshi didn't hide anything. They were actually relatives and had grown up together. As they were talking, Wu Qinshi suddenly lowered her voice and leaned close to Su Sui's ear. It seems Zhou Jinzi doesn't like Bai Yue. Otherwise, why wouldn't he tell her about their relationship? Indeed, one shouldn't speak ill of others behind their backs. Zhou Jinzi seemed to sense something. "What are you talking about?" Hu Qinshi laughed awkwardly. "Ah, nothing. Nothing. Jing'an University, it's not big, but not small either." Soon, the free lunch ended. Hu Qinshi waved goodbye to her uncle. Zhou Jinzi held a cigarette between his fingers, with a faint smile, but said nothing. Instead, Sheng Nanzhou was unusually enthusiastic. Su Sui was a bit shy, but still gathered courage. See you next time." At that moment, in Zhou Jinzi's eyes, a familiar figure flashed through his mind. Just this momentary thought made him daze off. With the sound of the lighter, Sheng Nanzhou noticed his expression seemed a bit off. "How come you're already thinking about her?" Zhou Jinzi took a deep drag, silent for a long time. But his eyes still looked in the direction Su Sui left. He said in a roguish and cocky manner, "I never touched these good students." Su Sui, who had already left, didn't know about all this happening after she left. However, Zhou Jinzi did seem to truly not remember her. For some college students, night is when a new day begins. Su Sui stayed alone in the dorm, quietly watching Zhou Jin's speech video. Because of what Xing Nanzhou said during the day, Su Sui was very curious about what he actually said. Zhou Jinzi stood on the stage. There was some commotion below. He stretched out his long arm and casually raised the microphone in front of him by a large margin. The sarcasm on his face was obvious. The students below burst into laughter. After adjusting the microphone, Zhou Jinzi stood in front of everyone and began to speak. Fellow students, I'll keep it short. Of course, you can also consider what I'm about to say as nonsense. Zhou Jinzi's dark eyes swept across the audience. 3 parts roguish mixed with 7 parts nonchalance. I don't care if you still hold on to your dreams, or if you're disheartened by the alarm that goes off punctually at 6 every morning. The future might be even harder. The elimination rate becomes a disaster for pilots, along with issues like being grounded. I don't want to care about these things. I once read a sentence in a book, which I'd like to share with everyone who chose to become a pilot. The audience suddenly fell silent, all waiting to hear what Zhou Jinzi would say. Zhou Jinzi stood on the stage, his gaze sweeping over the people below, his voice carrying a hint of arrogance. He took out a sheet of paper and folded it into a paper airplane. The white paper airplane fluttered, flying a circle in midair, then towards the sea of people below. Following it was his strong voice. God is silent. Everything is up to me. A gust of wind blew, lifting a corner of Zhou Jinzi's black t-shirt. He stood on the stage, watching the students in a commotion, and slowly smiled. The young man in black exuded a chilling aura, just like before, smiling arrogantly and freely. How impressive can a man be? Zhou Jinzi's speech during his college years stirred up passion in the audience below. Even Su Sui was captivated. She couldn't help but feel a ripple in her heart. However, just as she was in a daze, suddenly there was a loud bang. Su Sui quickly closed her laptop. She saw Bai Yuyue coming in while on the phone, looking a bit dazed. Bai Yuyue ignored Su Sui, holding her phone and walking straight to the cool balcony. Seeing the situation wasn't right, she leaned close to Su Sui's ear and whispered. It turned out that downstairs, Bai Yuyue had been like this the whole time. Again and again, over and over. Finally, with a loud bang, Bai Yuyue smashed her phone on the ground. It shattered to pieces. She also slumped down on the balcony, sobbing uncontrollably. Liang Shuang quickly went to comfort her, but the crying only got louder. Su Sui glanced at the two of them, then crouched down to pick up the phone. When she heard Bai Yuyue say she had a fight with her boyfriend, her hand was cut by the shattered pieces. Su Sui winced, blood dripping down her finger. Su Sui put her finger in her mouth and sucked hard, as if this was the quickest way to stop the bleeding. Then she slowly stood up. Liang Shuang noticed her action and asked what was wrong. She went down to the small shop, bought a Band-Aid, and put it on herself. Sitting on the flower bed, Su Sui's heart was in turmoil. She knew he was like this since high school. But why? After so long, hadn't she gotten used to it? Just as Su Sui was sighing, a cat's meow caught her attention. The cat, with its round paws, came up to Su Sui. Its amber eyes kept looking at her, trying to rub against her pants. Su Sui's heart melted. She crouched down and noticed a wound on its face, still with blood on it. Su Sui stood up, carefully cleaning the cat's wound with mineral water. The kitten purred, seemingly thanking Su Sui. Su Sui then opened a sausage, and the kitten swayed along her palm. After feeding it, Su Sui patted its head. I'm leaving. I can't keep you. The kitten seemed to understand her words, standing still and watching as Su Sui left. A few days later at Jin Yi's cafeteria, unexpectedly, she saw Zhou Jinzi again. As soon as Hu Qianxi and Sheng Nanzhou met, they started bickering. After teasing Hu Qianxi, Sheng Nanzhou turned his gaze to Su Sui beside her. Sister, what's good to eat here? Any recommendations? Su Sui was stunned, because what she ordered, they definitely wouldn't like. Sheng Nanzhou raised an eyebrow. That's a bit disrespectful. There's nothing I won't dare to eat. At this moment, a spicy rice noodle hot pot was pushed over with triple red oil. Insanely spicy, right? Sheng Nanzhou looked at it. Insanely spicy, with deep red oil floating on top. Sheng Nanzhou clasped his hands and bowed out. I didn't expect you to be such a little spice fiend. Zhou Jinzi looked at him disdainfully. If you're not eating, don't block the way. Then he secretly kicked him from behind. His body naturally squeezed in behind Su Sui. Su Sui clearly felt how close he was to her. At the table, the gossipy Hu Qianxi hadn't even opened her chopsticks before she started asking about him, and by Yue. Su Sui hadn't expected Hu Qianqi to be so direct. Originally, he was lowering his head, slurping the noodle soup, making sizzling sounds in the pot. Zhou Jinzi took a bite of sea cucumber fried rice and casually said, "We broke up." Hearing Zhou Jinzi's words, Su Sui was so shocked she choked. The spiciness shot up her throat, both painful and fiery. She coughed so hard that tears welled up in her eyes. A hand with clearly defined knuckles pushed a glass of water towards her. Su Sui met Zhou Jinzi's gaze, and her heart instantly became flustered. His eyes were like rocks at the bottom of a river, black and shiny when the water receded, silent yet gleaming. Triple red oil, insanely spicy hot pot rice noodles. Would you dare to try? How much spiciness can you handle? Su Sui, who had ordered the hot pot rice noodles herself, ended up choking and tearing up. Moreover, her boyfriend Zhou Jinzi timely pushed over a glass of water. However, he only thought Su Sui looked somewhat familiar. Su Sui said thanks and took it, but in her mind, she was a bit worried. Could he have noticed something? Hu Qianqi beside them, however, didn't notice the change in their expressions at all. She looked at Zhou Jinzi with confusion. "Are you heartbroken?" Su Sui paused, as if a certain image flashed through her mind. Sheng Nanzhou immediately picked up on this topic. He pointed at Zhou Jinzi next to him, first giving a cold laugh. Then he turned and ran his hand over his chest. "Xu Huan, you have no heart." Zhou Jinzi remained calm, speaking affectionately in his ear. He whispered, "Be good. I'll let you touch it when we get back tonight." Sheng Nanzhou pulled away from him as if electrocuted, keeping his distance from Zhou Jinzi. "Stop trying to seduce me. I'm straight." The next moment, Sheng Nanzhou was back to his serious demeanor. In fact, Zhou Jinzi really didn't care about the breakup. He was just sad because he lost his cat. Even Hu Qianqi hadn't expected that the cat they had just picked up a month ago would be lost like this. In all of this, it seemed only Su Sui didn't know what they were talking about. In contrast, Zhou Jin just faintly sniffed and said in a low voice, "White-eyed cat." Little did they know, this white-eyed cat was the one Su Sui had fed the night before. Sunday afternoon, introduced by a senior, Su Sui began her path of work study. After several transfers, it took an hour to reach the place. Not long after getting off the bus, Su Sui still felt very nauseous. She walked very slowly. Suddenly, she saw a convenience store not far away. Su Sui walked over. The automatic sensor slowly opened the door. A ding sound welcomed her arrival. A lazy, emotionless voice sounded. Su Sui looked over and was surprised to see Zhou Jinzi. He had a cigarette dangling from his mouth, his elbow bent, showing tight muscle lines. He was lowering his head, playing a game. From the side view, the spinous process on his neck was prominent, cold yet alluring. He had been in the same position for too long. Zhou Jinzi raised his hand to rub his neck. As he looked up, he saw Su Sui. He slightly raised an eyebrow. "How come it's you?" "I came here for something," Su Sui said nervously. Zhou Jinzi nodded indifferently and lowered his head to resume playing his game. Su Sui turned around, standing in front of a row of freezers, picking and choosing. The sound of the game kept coming from behind. Although Zhou Jinzi wasn't looking at her, Su Sui felt extremely nervous because they were alone in the same space. Su Sui froze for a moment, forgetting what she came to buy. The cold air from the freezer hit her, making her shiver. Finally, she nervously picked a box of white peach-flavored milk. At checkout, Zhou Jinzi tossed his phone aside. He stood up to scan the item. As Su Sui was paying, Zhou Jinzi noticed something unusual about her. Her face was exceptionally pale, making her eyes appear particularly dark and weak. "What's wrong? You don't look well." Zhou Jinzi's voice was low as he stared at her. Su Sui said she was just a bit carsick. Zhou Jinzi pushed his tongue against his left cheek. He smiled and said, "Wait a moment." Then he turned around to find a jacket, and a box of candy fell into his palm. Su Sui quietly watched him, not knowing what he was up to. Zhou Jinzi handed the box over. Su Sui's long eyelashes fluttered as she extended her hand. Suddenly, a handful of green mint candies fell into her palm. With a rattle, it was like a reward for her. She didn't dare look up. Afraid of meeting his gaze, she stared directly at his hand. His fingers had distinct knuckles, and there was a black mole on the tiger's mouth of his hand. "I often eat these candies. They seem to help a bit with motion sickness." Zhou Jinza had a cigarette in his mouth, his voice muffled. Then he casually unwrapped a candy. He put it in his mouth and chewed, making crunching sounds. Su Sui stared blankly, then quietly lowered her head. She cupped the handful of candies and said, "Thank you." Who knew that the coincidences of fate would occur one after another on the same day? She took a wrong turn. After wandering for half an hour, she found out that the house was right behind the convenience store. Su Sui stood at the door and politely rang the doorbell. Someone inside responded and quickly came to open the door. It was a woman in her 40s, beautiful, wearing a form-fitting dress, exuding charm. After a brief self-introduction, she led Su Sui into the room. Sheng Yi called out towards the staircase, but there was no response. Sheng Yi smiled awkwardly. "Little Su, why don't you come upstairs with me? I'd like to see how suitable you are." Su Sui followed the woman upstairs. They walked to the third room on the left. Standing at the door, Su Sui immediately saw two people playing games. Sheng Yinjiao was still clinging to brother Jinza, playing games. "I'll give you 3 seconds to get out. Old Lee who collects trash downstairs has been enjoying your game console for a long time." The game sound abruptly stopped. Sheng Yinjiao pleaded desperately. Zhou Jinza put down the controller, turned his head, and was surprised to see Su Sui. Then he laughed. What a fucking coincidence. Su Sui was also stunned. She really could run into him anywhere. Zhou Jinza bent down and ruffled Sheng Yinjia's hair. He lazily chuckled. "Study well." With that, he walked out of the room. As he passed by Su Sui, his expression was complex. Seeing that Su Sui seemed confused about the situation, Zhou Jinza explained the whole story to her. It turned out that the tutoring student was Sheng Nanzhou's younger brother. The convenience store in front also belonged to their family. He was just helping to watch it for a while, because Aunt Sheng had gone to play mahjong. Seeing that Zhou Jinza had exposed everything, Aunt Sheng pushed him aside and hurriedly welcomed Su Sui. An hour later, due to Su Sui's patience and professionalism, she successfully won Aunt Sheng's approval and secured the position as a future tutor. Meanwhile, Zhou Jinza had finished getting dressed and was preparing to go home. But Aunt Sheng stopped him. "Go home for what? You're all alone there. Stay for dinner. I'll make your favorite dishes." Due to Su Sui's acquaintance with them, she was also invited to stay for dinner. Su Sui quickly waved her hands, smiling awkwardly, saying she had to go to the library later. Perhaps seeing Su Sui's hesitation, Aunt Sheng took her hand, intending to remove all her excuses. She just hoped Su Sui could help them. Su Sui's gaze moved past Aunt Sheng. She saw Zhou Jinza standing with Sheng Yinjia and the kid's defiant face. Finally, she slowly said, "Well, I'll think about it. Fate was always so coincidental." Zhou Jinza's presence was everywhere. Back at the dorm, Wu Qianqian heard about Su Sui's encounter today. Though sympathetic, she could do nothing. At least the employer seemed nice, and it was Sheng Nanzhou's brother after all. Despite this, Su Sui still had some doubts in her heart, particularly about Zhou Jinza. It turned out Zhou Jinza originally lived here. When he was in 9th grade, his mother passed away, and his father moved out. As for him, he never wanted to leave this place, full of memories. He just kept a German Shepherd for company. Hearing this, Su Sui felt a wave of sadness. Her gaze unconsciously turned to the candies he had put in a bottle. Just then, there was a ding. The senior came to ask Su Sui about the tutoring job, how she had considered it. Su Sui looked at her phone. Without any hesitation, she decisively agreed. At the Sheng family's house on the weekend, Sheng Yinjiao was doing exercises while sighing, clearly unfocused. Su Sui lightly tapped the little curly head with the test paper. "How old are you to be sighing like this?" Sheng Yinjia had a precocious look, complaining that adults nowadays don't know where children's childhood is. Su Sui couldn't resist her inner curiosity. "Then where's your childhood?" Sheng Yinjia patted his chest, without hesitation and with a determined gaze. "In the Western Kingdom of the fighting world." Su Sui glanced at the time. If he could finish a set of exercises in 40 minutes, she would play games with him for 20 minutes and even complete a level. The little curly head looked unconvinced. "In this world, I only admire my brother Jinza for his gaming skills." Su Sui wasn't provoked at all, her tone flat. "Is that so? From today on, you'll have a second person to admire." Su Sui was calm. The principle of quenching thirst by thinking of plums, first giving hope, then pushing Sheng Yinjia forward. Sure enough, after 2 hours, Sheng Yinjia felt he had thoroughly understood all these unfamiliar knowledge points. So, it was time for Su Sui to fulfill her promise. The two sat on the soft carpet and began their gaming journey. Amidst exclamations, Sheng Yinjia's character was about to die. while Su Sui remained calm and composed. Finally, after 20 minutes, they successfully completed the game. Sheng Yinjiao was extremely excited and now had another idol to admire. Su Sui just smiled lightly. Back in the day? But in the next moment, she changed the subject. How come I didn't see your brother today? Sheng Yinjia hesitated, not knowing how to answer. Sheng Nanzhou was his biological brother, while Zhou Jinzi was also like a brother to him. His biological brother did come back often. As for Zhou Jinzi, it's uncertain. He used to come back more often when he was single. Hearing this, Su Sui was stunned, lost in thought. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Sheng Yinjiao also called out, "Brother Sheng." Su Sui paused, unsure which brother he was calling. She then looked up towards the door. This glance was not trivial. Outside the door stood Sheng Nanzhou and Zhou Jinzi. Sheng Nanzhou opened his arms, half squatting, ready to receive Sheng Yinjia's hug. However, Sheng Yinjia completely ignored him and hugged Zhou Jinzi behind him instead. "Kid, you should change your surname." Sheng Nanzhou was furious. Sheng Yinjia continued to ignore his existence and told them about Su Sui helping him clear the game. Zhou Jinzi smiled, looking at Su Sui with a competitive air. "I heard Su Sui is very good at gaming." Zhou Jinzi had a clear intention to compete. "How will our female lead, Su Sui, handle this situation?" From the moment he entered, Su Sui looked a bit flustered. She hastily wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and even secretly hid the milk carton she was holding behind her back. "I only play games when I'm under a lot of study pressure. It's just to relieve stress. But if you really want to play against me, I don't mind." As soon as the words left her mouth, Su Sui regretted it. What on earth was she saying? Then she heard Sheng Yinjia's dissatisfied voice. "Teacher, you're biased." Sheng Nanzhou gave Sheng Yinjia a slap. "What else? Everyone in this room, except you, and me has no pressure for school advancement." Su Sui's face reddened, feeling she had embarrassed herself too much here. She hurriedly packed her things, ready to leave. Zhou Jinzi just silently watched, not saying anything more. But Su Sui could clearly feel Zhou Jinzi's intense gaze. However, just as she was about to leave, Aunt Xing appeared, smiling and inviting her to stay for dinner. Su Sui smiled awkwardly, instinctively refusing. But Sheng Yi's strength was great, directly pushing Su Sui back in. Her enthusiasm was overwhelming. Zhou Jinzi still just smiled, seeming very interested in Su Sui. After dinner, it was already past 8 o'clock. Sheng Yi looked at the dark sky outside and asked Sheng Nanzhou to send her back. Sheng Nanzhou scratched his head, "But my car is in for maintenance." Su Sui looked uneasy, about to say it wasn't necessary. Zhou Jinzi bent down to pick up the car keys from the table. He raised his eyelids. "Let's go. I'll drive." Sheng Yi also went along with it, suddenly slapping her forehead. "Look at my memory. I forgot. You two are from the same neighboring school as teacher Su." After saying goodbye to Sheng Yi again, Su Sui left with Zhou Jinzi. Under Sheng Yi's repeated instructions, Zhou Jinzi, without turning his head, freed one hand to make an OK gesture. Su Sui didn't know which thing he was agreeing to, safely sending her home or bringing her back on weekends. Su Sui, hugging her books, followed him step by step. She discovered that Zhou Jinzi's house was right next to Sheng Nanzhou's at 80 Amber Lane. Zhou Jinzi walked straight into the house, asking Su Sui to wait outside. Su Sui looked at the imposing villa before her. Not a single light was on. It was eerily quiet, exuding a hint of desolate loneliness. While lost in thought, Zhou Jinzi suddenly threw a black helmet at her. Su Sui caught it with both hands, almost getting knocked over. Zhou Jinzi leaned against the motorcycle, folding his arms, asking Su Sui to try it on. She struggled to unfasten the buckle and put it on. The helmet was so big, it covered her entire face. Not even her eyes were visible. Zhou Jinzi, standing to the side, found it amusing. He reached out and lifted the helmet off Su Sui's head. Su Sui's face was flushed red from being covered, and she was now taking deep breaths with puffed cheeks. "Wait a moment," Zhou Jinzi said, then went back into the house. He came out shortly, holding a bright yellow helmet. "Try this one." Zhou Jinzi handed it to her. The helmet was clearly smaller. It fit Su Sui perfectly when she put it on. Su Sui wore the bright yellow helmet. Her eyes were clear and bright. Zhou Jinzi looked at her, unable to hide his smile. Su Sui felt a bit strange. Is something wrong? This helmet belongs to Sheng Yin. He bought it when he was in 6th grade. Su Sui was stunned again. She then understood, touching the helmet and softly defending herself. "I'm 165 centimeters tall." Zhou Jinzi seemed carefree and playful, with a Playboy image, but inside, there was always a darkness that others couldn't reach. However, when facing Su Sui, it was a different feeling. He actively asked if he could smoke a cigarette. After getting Su Sui's response, with a click, accompanied by the sound of a lighter, Zhou Jinzi took a deep drag, then slowly exhaled a stream of smoke. Just then, a phone call interrupted the moment. The caller was none other than his biological father, Zhou Jingyan. The phone kept ringing persistently when he didn't answer. Zhou Jinzi tapped to answer, not even bothering with pleasantries, his tone icy. "What is it?" His father was taken aback, somewhat displeased. Suppressing his anger, he said, "Come back for dinner next week. It's my birthday. The whole family should celebrate happily." Hearing the words whole family, Zhou Jinzi's expression flashed with gloom. His eyes revealed hostility as he directly replied, "I'm busy. Save your fatherly love for your son." Without waiting for a response, Zhou Jinzi hung up the phone. His hand was silently trembling. The cigarette in his hand was unexpectedly bent. Then he suddenly threw it to the ground. It was viciously crushed under his shoe, the last spark extinguished. Zhou Jinzi rode his motorcycle to take Su Sui back to school. He was clearly in a bad mood. The wind whistled past as Su Sui sat on the back. Although she couldn't see Zhou Jinzi's expression, she knew his whole body was screaming displeasure. Zhou Jinzi drove very fast, leaning forward and accelerating all the way. He clearly remembered his helplessness after his mother's death. His father didn't even come to parent-teacher meetings, instead attending his stepmother's son's graduation ceremony. Thinking of this, Zhou Jinzi accelerated again. The rushing wind hit their faces with doubled force. The scenery on both sides retreated rapidly, like a fast-forwarded movie. Su Sui's heart was in her throat. She had never ridden on such a fast vehicle, feeling nervous and scared. He rode faster and faster. Su Sui felt everything in her vision had become a blur. He knew Zhou Jinzi was venting, so he could only silently grip the handlebars on both sides. When Zhou Jinzi went crazy, even he might not know what would happen. Zhou Jinzi finally vented his emotions. He felt Su Sui behind him, completely stiff. Wearing the helmet, he glanced back. Su Sui's fingertips were white, still tightly gripping the handlebars. His heart skipped a beat, as if stung by something. Zhou Jinzi unconsciously eased off the throttle, slowing down. Even he didn't realize he had inadvertently compromised. As the speed suddenly decreased, Su Sui felt the strength in her body gradually disappear, returning to her previous carefree state. Summer had long passed. The evening breeze was a bit cool but pleasant. Most of the journey was over. Although he had slowed down, he still sensed Su Sui's uneasiness. Zhou Jinzi's deep voice came with the wind. "Are you afraid of me?" "No," Su Sui quickly replied. "I'm just nervous being with you. I always want to say something to you, but I'm afraid you won't like it," Su Sui silently thought. "Then why are you so stiff?" Zhou Jinzi asked without emotion. He squinted at the road ahead. "We're going downhill, hold on tight." That was his favorite part of the road. It always gave him a feeling that life was accelerating, but it belonged only to him. Su Sui reached out and carefully grabbed the edge of his clothes. Zhou Jinzi took her plunging downhill. His back was broad, especially his pronounced shoulder blades. Su Sui smelled the scent of cigarettes on him, as well as a slightly bitter basil. The scent was sharp and unique, gradually filling her senses. An evening breeze blew by, messing up Su Sui's hair. A strand of hair disobediently stuck to the back of his neck, intimate and uncontrollable. Su Sui stared at the faint blue vein on the back of his neck, reaching out to very carefully hook it away. Her fingertips accidentally touched his skin, and she quickly withdrew her hand. He probably didn't notice, right? The light brush felt like a feather's touch. Zhou Jinzi gripped the motorcycle handlebars, staring straight ahead, blinking once. At the moment of descent, Su Sui was amazed to find that the streetlights on both sides of the road seemed to have sensors. They lit up one after another. The flickering lights were like stars suddenly illuminated in the universe. Su Sui forgot her earlier embarrassment, admiring the beauty before her eyes. Even Zhou Jinzi couldn't help but slow down. At that moment, the starry sky was beautiful, and he and the one he secretly liked shone in the universe. The starry sky was beautiful, and he and the one he secretly liked were at the center of the universe. Perhaps this is love. After reaching the school gate, Su Sui got off, took off the helmet, and returned it to him, looking at him and saying thanks. Zhou Jinza was still on the motorcycle, casually taking the helmet. He seemed to remember something, lifting his eyelids. "All right, you can find me for weekend classes in the future. If I have time to go back, I can give you a ride." Su Sui's eyes lit up. "Okay, which class are you in at the flight academy? I'll come find you then." Zhou Jinza unlocked his phone and handed it over. His tone was casual. "To save trouble, just add me on WeChat." Su Sui silently opened WeChat and added Zhou Jinza as a friend. Zhou Jinza didn't even look at it, just stuffed the phone into his pocket. "All right, I'm off then." Then without waiting for Su Sui to react, he revved the engine and with a roar, rode away on his bike, leaving Su Sui standing alone, silently mouthing the words she hadn't managed to say. On the way back to the dorm, Su Sui felt like she was in a dream. In high school, she could only add his QQ through the class group chat. But today she actually added Zhou Jinza on WeChat. Su Sui walked through the dorm gate with a joyful heart. A ginger cat darted out from the bushes, meowing at her. It was the same little ginger cat from before, boldly rubbing against Su Sui's ankle. Su Sui had a kind heart and always fed the stray cats and dogs. Without hesitation, Su Sui opened her backpack and took out a sausage she had bought in the morning. The little ginger cat started eating without any ceremony. Su Sui was also generous, feeding it until it was full. Just as Su Sui was immersed in this moment of relaxation, Zhou Jinza accepted her friend request. Su Sui's mood improved even more. But a new problem arose: how to save his contact. Saving it as Zhou Jinza might be too obvious. For someone you secretly like, wouldn't you give them many nicknames? Even the contact name in your phone would be unique. After some thought, Su Sui decided to give him a different name. A nickname only she would know. ZJZ, the initials of Zhou Jinza's name. This way no one would know. It was her own secret. Su Sui repeatedly looked at Zhou Jinza's chat window, which displayed a system message. Su Sui was wondering whether to tell him she had arrived, but it didn't seem necessary. After all, he hadn't asked her to. Instead, she just took out her phone and snapped a picture. She went crazy taking photos of the little ginger cat on the ground. Finally, she posted a moment. The picture was of the cat's little paw that she took downstairs. The text simply said, "Ah." Just as Su Sui finished showing off before she could exit WeChat, she received a message notification. She opened it, held her breath, widened her eyes to confirm, hardly believing it. 2 minutes ago, Zhou Jinza had liked her moment. Mid-November, after a rainy day, the weather suddenly turned cold. Su Sui also switched to thicker clothes. She was preparing for a medical skills competition recently, so every day she carried a thermos and 7 or 8 books tucked under her arm, heading straight to the library after class. So her life was particularly regular during this period. Every day was a triangle of classroom, library, and dormitory. However, a cat's meow interrupted Su Sui's steps forward. She unexpectedly encountered the little ginger cat again. It seemed as if the snacks in Su Sui's bag were specially prepared for it. Even the usually slow to react, Su Sui noticed something unusual about the little ginger cat. After feeding it, she rubbed its fluffy head with her hand. As she turned to leave, the little ginger cat looked at her pitifully. The next moment, it directly bit onto Su Sui's pant leg, turning gratitude into resentment. Su Sui was quite helpless, but she couldn't resist the little ginger cat's charm. Unfortunately, pets weren't allowed in the dorm. It would be troublesome if discovered. But then she had a thought, looking at the little ginger cat's condition. It was wet all over, dirty, clearly living from meal to meal. This was indeed a difficult decision to make. Though her mind was conflicted, her actions were honest. She picked up the cat and held it in her arms. She decided to give it a try. Maybe it would work out. So Su Sui encountered a stray ginger kitten and wanted to take it back to the dorm. Some people are born animal lovers, while others despise them. Seeing that her roommates didn't object, to be safe, Su Sui took the kitten for a checkup before bringing it back to the dorm. As if thanking Su Sui for her kindness, the little ginger cat was very obedient and gentle. When Su Sui brought the cat back, Wu Qinshi sat up straight in her bed. In her mind, Su Sui was like a living bodhisattva. Su Sui just smiled faintly, thinking the cat was just too pitiful. Besides, animals are always more grateful than humans. At that moment, there was a loud bang as the door was thrown open. Bai Yue had returned, her eyes full of resentment. This all started from the day Zhou Jinza sent Su Sui back. By chance, Bai Yue had seen them exchanging WeChat contacts. Being a competitive person, how could she let Su Sui off? So from that day on, Bai Yue held a grudge against Su Sui. Seeing Su Sui bring a stray cat back to the dorm, her tone was naturally sarcastic. You just love picking up strays, don't you? Su Sui didn't refute Bai Yue's words. She had no intention of falling out with her. Instead, she reached out to pet the little ginger cat. Besides, she didn't plan to keep it forever. Finally, Su Sui looked up at her, her eyes full of disdain. Her tone was flat as she only said 4 words, to each their own. She didn't finish the phrase, but Bai Yue should understand her meaning. Bai Yue furrowed her beautiful brows, unable to say a word. Wu Qinshi burst out laughing. Everyone said Su Sui was docile and easygoing. Looks like that wasn't entirely true. At least she had her own temper. The seemingly fragile Su Sui actually had her own temper and bottom line. The confrontation with Bai Yue had begun. The skills test competition soon arrived. Coincidentally, Bai Yue and Su Sui were in the same exam room. Bai Yue was in the last seat of the first row, Su Sui in the third from last seat of the second row. Since their last encounter, Bai Yue had harbored resentment. Midway through the exam, Su Sui was concentrating on answering questions. Suddenly, a paper ball was thrown from behind, rolled on the desk edge, and fell at her feet. Before she could open it, the proctor walked over, picked it up, unfolded it, and with a serious face asked, "What is this?" How would Su Sui know? The proctor, without further ado, assumed she was cheating. Su Sui's tone was neither servile nor overbearing. She put down her pen. If you're going to accuse me of cheating based on a random piece of paper, I can forfeit this exam. The proctor hadn't expected her to be so assertive and was momentarily speechless. At this moment, another proctor walked over. It was Shi Yuejia, a student cadre who had met Su Sui a few times before. He politely asked the teacher to step outside into the hallway, intending to say something. He glanced at Su Sui nearby, telling her not to worry and to wait a moment. When he returned, he went straight to Su Sui. Continue your exam. We didn't handle this well earlier. After the exam, I'll give you a resolution. Su Sui nodded and picked up her pen to resume the exam. Shi Yuejia knew Su Sui's character and was certain she wouldn't cheat, especially given her consistently excellent grades. He would definitely give her an explanation. Fortunately, there were cameras in every classroom. The autumn rain grew colder with each shower. Zhou Jinza and his group were on the field for physical training when it started pouring. They had to disperse. A crowd of boys returned to the dorm. Zhou Jinza walked in with his hands in his pockets. After taking off his jacket, he felt uncomfortable from being soaked. He crossed his hands and stretched his blue training uniform. Pulling it up, he revealed 2 rows of toned, lean abs. The muscle lines on his body were incredibly smooth. Sheng Nanzhou took a breath, his face flushed, and started gossiping about Zhou Jinza and Su Sui's developments. Zhou Jinza didn't want to gossip. His own gossip was about which of the Sheng brothers looked more punchable. Sheng Nanzhou didn't mind, instead taking on a mature air, stroking his chin with 2 fingers. I feel like Su Sui might be interested in you. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Jinza slapped him lightly on the face. I'm serious too. Jokes aside, at the mention of Su Sui, Zhou Jinza seemed to have some feelings. He just felt that she seemed quite afraid of him. When Zhou Jinza said Su Sui was somewhat afraid of him, who knows what he was thinking inside. However, as a well-known player, it made sense for Su Sui to fear him. After all, no one likes a player, not even Sheng Nanzhou. In a split second, while Sheng Nanzhou was off guard, Zhou Jinza slapped him again. The pain made him curse involuntarily. Zhou Jinza completely ignored Sheng Nanzhou's reaction and walked right past him. Hearing him ask for emotional damage compensation, he couldn't be bothered to respond. He had more important things to do, like visiting the neighboring school. After he finished his business, Zhao sent a message to Hu Qianxi. Let's have dinner tonight. I need to talk to you. You can bring Su Sui. Sure, we can come for a free meal. But Sui won't come out. He's been in a bad mood these days. Seeing the message, Zhou Jinza wondered why he would be in a bad mood. Then, Hu Qinshi explained the whole exam cheating incident. The rain was very light, almost non-existent. Zhou Jinza replied, "Got it," and put his phone in his pocket. Wearing a black baseball cap, he looked up and saw two people not far away. The person Hu Qinshi described as being in a bad mood and listless was now standing at the school gate with a male student. They were each holding a cup of milk tea. Zhou Jinza instinctively squinted to look closer. The male student must have said something, because Su Sui's fair face was melting into a smile. Sensing someone staring, Su Sui turned her head reflexively. Her heart suddenly trembled, and her pupils constricted sharply. She stepped back involuntarily, accidentally kicking a stone on the path. Shi Yuejia quickly grabbed Su Sui's arm to steady her, the gesture quite intimate. After regaining balance, Su Sui looked at Shi Yuejia, her voice tinged with embarrassment. Her eyes were a bit flustered. Shi Yuejia followed her gaze and turned to look. Zhou Jinza was walking towards them with his hands in his pockets, moving at a leisurely pace. Under the black baseball cap was a face of nonchalance. He was chewing mint gum. A lazy smile hung on his face. The moment Shi Yuejia saw Zhou Jinza, the smile on his face slightly faded. By the time Zhou approached, his expression had returned to normal. Su Sui looked up and asked, "Why are you here?" "Looking for someone," Zhou Jinza replied, looking down at him. Just as Su Sui sensed the atmosphere was a bit off and was about to break the awkwardness by introducing them, Shi Yuejia spoke up first, smiling warmly. "Jinza, long time no see." Su Sui's eyes widened slightly, confusion flashing in his clear pupils. "You know each other?" Shi Yuejia nodded. Just as he was about to explain their relationship, Zhou Jinza pressed his tongue against the mint candy, biting it with a loud crunch. He chuckled. "What do you think our relationship is?" Zhou Jinza's eyes stared straight at Shi Yuejia, like a hidden sharp sword. Shi Yuejia felt cornered. After hesitating for a long time, he finally managed to squeeze out two words: "Friends." Hearing this, Zhou Jinza's lips curled up slightly, full of mockery, but he didn't say anything in the end. Due to Zhou Jinza's forceful joining and his dominating presence between them, Shi Yuejia didn't know what to say anymore. He simply said goodbye to Su Sui, preparing to leave. Shi Yuejia hesitated for a moment before leaving. He still patted Su Sui's shoulder, smiling and saying, "I'm off." Zhou Jinza let out a very light sneer, saying nothing. After Shi Yuejia left, Zhou Jinza was already by the bus stop sign. He took out an opium candy and put it in his mouth. His jawline was sharp and strong. He didn't say a word. Su Sui, afraid of misunderstanding, stammered an explanation. "That was my senior proctor. There was a little accident during the exam." For some reason, Su Sui didn't tell Zhou Jinza, who had framed him. "Senior." Zhou Jinza slowly enunciated these words. After a while, he changed the subject. "Is the matter resolved?" Mentioning this, Su Sui became a bit listless. "I guess so." After the exam, Shi Yuejia requested to go to the monitoring room. He spent over 2 hours reviewing the exam room footage back and forth and found the real cheater. Su Sui didn't like owing favors, so he treated him to milk tea. That's why Zhou Jinza stumbled upon this scene. Just as Su Sui was about to say something more, a teacher called, asking him to come to the office to get photocopied exam papers. After hanging up, Su Sui looked at Zhou Jinza, seeming to have something to say, but hesitating. Seeing his hesitant look, Zhou Jinza flicked his forehead. "Hurry up and go. I have something to do too." Su Sui winced in pain, rubbing his forehead, almost crying out. After saying goodbye, Su Sui left alone. Zhou Jinza stood still, silently watching his retreating figure, his lips unconsciously curling up. Only when Su Sui was out of sight did Zhou Jinza's expression change. His face darkened, head lowered, looking somewhat dejected. Then he lit a cigarette, took out his phone to make a call. After hanging up, he logged into WeChat and found Bai Yu's profile picture. Their chat history was still from last Sunday. "I saw you sending Su Sui back to school." Back in the dorm, Su Sui seemed a bit listless, apparently still thinking about his encounter with Zhou Jinza. As soon as he pushed open the door, 1017 immediately ran over, meowing at him. Bai Yu was combing his hair. He slammed the wooden comb on the table with a loud bang, his tone unpleasant. "It's so noisy." Su Sui ignored him, directly picking up 1017, completely disregarding Bai Yu. Bai Yu's attempt at conversation fizzled out. Feeling irritated all over, he was about to speak when With a ding, the screen of the phone on the desk lit up. Bai Yue picked up the phone and opened WeChat. It was a message from Zhou Jinze. Come out for a bit. When Bai Yue saw this message, his eyes brightened for a moment. He immediately tidied up the desk and started touching up his makeup, unable to hide his excitement and happiness. Bai Yue quickly got himself ready, looking curvaceous, beautiful, and alluring. Liang Shuang couldn't help but ask, "Where are you going, dressed up so nicely?" "Of course, an important person asked me out on a date," Bai Yue said, glancing back at Su Sui. Since breaking up with Zhou Jinze, Bai Yue had remained single. The only one who could easily stir Bai Yue's emotions was probably Zhou Jinze. So the person Zhou Jinze said he was looking for this morning was Bai Yue. Su Sui's heart clenched, his eyes starting to sting as he stared blankly at a spot. 1017 seemed to understand Su Sui's inner thoughts, meowing nonstop as if to comfort him. After 10 minutes of days, Su Sui didn't want to stay in this depressed state. He got up and gathered a few books, deciding to go to the library to do something else. Anything was better than aimless thinking. Seeing Su Sui about to leave, Liang Shuang sighed, feeling like he was the only one with nothing to do. Su Sui had always been a self-disciplined person. Rather than wasting time here overthinking, he'd rather study hard. Su Sui went downstairs with a few books. A cold wind blew, making him involuntarily hunch his shoulders. After walking a few steps, Su Sui heard an argument. He couldn't help but stop. Through a wild rose bush, he saw two people arguing. Bai Yue stood in front of Zhou Jinze, no longer showing his usual proud demeanor. Then Bai Yue took the initiative to embrace Zhou Jinze. "You still like me, don't you, Zhou Jinze?" However, a jerk is a jerk. Zhou Jinze showed no mercy, pulling Bai Yue's hands away. His tone was flat and indifferent, as if talking to a stranger. "Bai Yue, it's over between us." At that moment, Bai Yue cried bitterly, large teardrops falling one after another. Bai Yue took a few steps forward. Zhou Jinze stood still. He called out, "I've said what I needed to say. Think about it." The former froze for a moment, then left without looking back. He finally gave up, knowing there was no chance with Zhou Jinze. Zhou Jinze stood there in black pants and short boots, tall and handsome. He lightly tapped the ground with his toe. "Come out. Stop listening." Su Sui was startled, clutching his books and taking a couple of steps out. He leaned out to explain, "I didn't mean to." Zhou Jinze turned around, saying leisurely, "What can we do? We've already broken up, and now you've seen it." Before Su Sui could speak, Zhou Jinze, hands in pockets, walked towards him step by step. Watching his approaching steps, Su Sui gradually became nervous. But there was also a hint of longing in his heart. He came to stand in front of Su Sui, their faces so close they were almost touching foreheads. Zhou Jinze leaned down to look at him, his eyes black as rocks, with a hint of flirtatiousness and casualness. "Why don't you date me instead?" His warm breath tickled Su Sui's ear, making it itch. Su Sui's face visibly turned bright red, like a drop of red ink on transparent paper. Seeing Su Sui's silence, Zhou Jinze stepped closer, raising an eyebrow. Su Sui was both nervous and embarrassed. He took several steps back, unintentionally shaking the roses which rustled. Zhou Jinze stood in front of him, slowly leaning in. His thin lips were inching closer, so close that he could see Zhou Jinze's jet-black eyelashes. His heart was in his throat, both scared and secretly anticipating the outcome. Zhou Jinze leaned down, reached out, and pinched a rose petal on Su Sui's shoulder between his thumb and forefinger. Then, with a mischievous look in his eyes and an unserious smile, he teased. Having just broken up with someone and being caught by an acquaintance, some teasing was inevitable. Su Sui stared blankly at Zhou Jinze, feeling a bit lost. Zhou Jinze plucked another petal, gently rubbing it between his fingertips. "Come out for dinner tonight." "Cece knows." Su Sui shyly nodded, agreeing. After Zhou Jinze left, Su Sui covered his face with a book, muttering softly, "Bad person." At 9 p.m., Wu Qinshi expertly led Su Sui to the food street. Drinks were poured. Some raised their glasses. Others drank freely. Seeing the drink Lu handed over, Su Sui was visibly shocked. Having never drunk before, Su Sui naturally wanted to refuse. Lu seemed oblivious, and Zhou Jinze secretly kicked him under the table. Then he took the glass, saying, "All right, don't force him." He then drank it in one go. Lu couldn't say anything more. Lu, being Zhou Jinze's fanboy, drew mockery from Sheng Nanzhou. Lu proudly patted his chest, saying, my Zhou ranks first in both academics and practical skills. Every time I cause trouble, Zhou takes the blame for me. But last time when he ran laps as punishment for me, he took off his shirt in the heat, and that muscular body was truly enviable. Su Sui's heart tightened. At school, many people pursued him. Just as Lu was about to respond, a familiar cold voice sounded. "Stop talking nonsense." Zhou had somehow procured a bottle of milk, placing it in front of the surprised Su Sui. Surprisingly, the milk was still warm. Touched by his thoughtfulness, Su Sui softly said, "Thank you." Zhou acted as if nothing had happened. He glanced at the flattered Su Sui. It was unexpected that the usually inconsiderate Zhou would be so thoughtful, especially finding warm milk for Su Sui. Beside them, Sheng Lanzhao tapped his bowl with chopsticks. "Friends, the reason we're gathered here today is because there's something I want." Wu Qinshi rolled her eyes. Just spit it out. She wanted to form a temporary band, with everyone to participate in the school competition. Lu stole Sheng Lanzhao's long-prepared speech. "He wants your help." Wu Qinshi turned to look at him. "Why are you so enthusiastic about school activities?" "Because the prize is a 2-day 1-night trip to the Beishan ski resort," Zhou interjected. "He begged me for a long time." "Oh, I remember. Aren't you interested in that?" Sheng Nanzhou's legs started shaking unconsciously. Wu Qinshi didn't hesitate and agreed. Sheng Nanzhou was extremely excited, while Zhou glanced at him and called him an idiot. Sheng Nanzhou didn't mind and began assigning tasks. However, after counting, they were still short one person. They still needed a drummer. "Good." A soft but determined voice sounded. Everyone was shocked. They all turned their heads in unison. Looking at Su Sui, they paused for a moment before suddenly asking in chorus. Su Sui awkwardly scratched his head. He had only learned for a short time in elementary school and was now quite rusty. Zhou remained silent beside him, but the smile at the corner of his mouth couldn't hide his inner excitement. This scene was all caught by Su Sui, who even seemed a bit dazed. Usually, he probably wouldn't have volunteered, but now he just wanted Zhou to notice him. As Su Sui was about to speak, his phone made a ding notification sound. He opened it to see an apology message from Bai Yue. "I'm sorry, it was my fault. It won't happen again." Su Sui had always been kind and easygoing, but facing the person he secretly liked, he finally understood how to fight for what he wanted. Looking at Bai Yue's apology message, Su Sui's first thought was of Zhou because he had gone to see Bai Yue earlier that day. A little sister Su brought Su Sui back to reality. Sheng Nanzhou was seen stroking his chin, sizing him up. "You can play drums?" This news is as unbelievable as Lu wearing women's clothing. Jokes aside, the band lineup was complete, but they still needed a name. Sheng Nanzhou, emboldened by alcohol, volunteered. "Since we formed the band while eating barbecue, why not call it Barbecue Night?" The scene that followed was predictable. Everyone looked at him as if he were a monster. The name was too tacky. "Idiot," Zhou said mercilessly. Tuesday, during the break of a general course, Su Sui was organizing his notes. Something enviable happened. A female classmate at the door winked at him. "Classmate Su, Senior Shiryu is looking for you." Su Sui calmly walked out. Shiryu, wearing a white hoodie, hadn't cleaned up well. He came mainly to tell Su Sui about the exam cheating incident. Su Sui thanked him, but others were confused, whispering about the two's behavior. Shiryu nodded, then smiled as if remembering something. "Congratulations on getting first place in the medical skills competition. I won't disturb your class. Go back in, and if you need anything, you can ask your senior for help." Shiryu's tone was gentle, with a hint of something more. When Su Sui entered the room, the teasing intensified. It wasn't their fault. Shiryu was indeed excellent, and he had come to find Su Sui on his own. It was hard not to speculate. Wu Qinshi was also there. As a veterinary medicine student, she had come to audit the class and didn't expect to witness this scene. People around mocked, but Su Sui felt nothing. Wu Qinshi and Liang Shuang flanked him, grinning mischievously at Su Sui. Liang Shuang even pinched Su Sui's cheek. "Our Sui is really popular, huh?" Su Sui rubbed his face, not understanding why no one believed him when he explained such a simple thing. Hearing this, Wu Qinshi looked up from her book at Su Sui, as if discovering something. Come to think of it, Su Sui was always calm and collected with everyone, even showing no particular reaction to Shiryu. But when it came to Zhou he would act a bit differently. often becoming shy and nervous. Wu Qianqi sighed helplessly, patting her forehead. Zhou Jinze is such a troublemaker. Just then, the phone on the desk rang. Both Wu Qianqi and Su Sui received messages simultaneously. Su Sui found himself added to a group chat. Sheng Nanzhou was discussing band practice arrangements in the group. However, no one else was responding. Helplessly, Sheng Nanzhou sent several red envelopes in a row. Su Sui didn't hesitate to tap on the red envelope. Then he quickly replied to the messages. The next second, messages flooded the group chat. Everyone had claimed the red envelopes. Naturally, people had to respond. Sheng Nanzhou complained in the group that the band still had no name, offering 500 yuan as a reward for naming the band. Su Sui chuckled, seemingly having an answer in mind already. Carbonated Mood was the name Su Sui thought of. It actually suited the band quite well. But there were too many messages, and it quickly scrolled past. He sighed and was about to put away his phone. When he looked at the screen clearly, his eyes widened slightly. Zhou Jinze, who hadn't spoken until now, chimed in. What Su Sui just said is good. Let's go with Carbonated Mood. Sure, Yuejia was about to snatch Su Sui away. Ever since helping Su Sui solve a problem last time, he had been frequently trying to get Su Sui's attention. This time, seeing Su Sui interested in the Firefly competition, he deliberately approached Su Sui and said, "What a coincidence, you're also looking at Firefly music." Su Sui replied directly, "Yes." Sure, Yuejia lowered his eyes upon hearing this. Then he smiled and invited Su Sui to form a team. Just as Su Sui was about to refuse, a jealous bystander suddenly chimed in with a sarcastic comment. It's all over both forums. He's forcing himself to play an instrument just for Zhou Jinze. He's already leaning toward someone else, senior. Don't waste your effort. Su Sui was about to explain, but Sure Yuejia stopped him first. Do you live in the sea? Mind your own business. Under such academic pressure, he still got an A, even if he's leaning towards someone. So what? Seeing their attempt to cause trouble fail, the two left. Sure, Yuejia wanted to comfort Su Sui, telling him not to take it to heart. But Su Sui said he wouldn't. He stared at the phoenix tree leaf that had fallen on his hand. He spoke softly. This is nothing. It turned out Su Sui's father was a firefighter who died in the line of duty, becoming a martyr. But because he couldn't safely rescue someone, leading to their disability, he was resented by the person's daughter, resulting in Su Sui being bullied at school. Su Sui cried, covering his beaten face, murmuring, "But I don't have a dad. Hardships make people grow." So, now Su Sui isn't hurt by these rumors. Hearing that Su Sui was fine, Sure Yuejia didn't probe further, but chose to ask about his relationship with Zhou Jinze. Su Sui was stunned by the question. Then he lowered his head sadly and answered. As strong as Su Sui was, mentioning Zhou Jinze always touched a sore spot. Maybe he just sees me as someone unimportant. On the weekend, Su Sui went to tutor at the Sheng family as scheduled. Because he had to go to rehearsal, the little Sheng's playtime was cut short, but hearing they could watch a movie, he immediately perked up. However, when he learned he had to write a movie review afterward, Sheng burst into tears, complaining, "Teacher Su, it's all a trap." After that, Su Sui said goodbye to him. He hurried to the rehearsal place. Just then, Shengyi appeared again and called out to him. But this time it wasn't to invite him for dinner, but it was for mahjong. They were one player short. He forcefully dragged Su Sui to be the fourth player. Reluctantly, Su Sui could only message Zhou Jinze to inform him he'd be late. During the game, Shengyi, knowing Su Sui didn't know how to play, took advantage and won big from him. Su Sui was helpless, thinking, "Someone please come save me." Suddenly, he saw Zhou Jinze's message saying wait. Su Sui couldn't help but wonder if he was bringing reinforcements or calling to ask Sheng-Yi to let him go. Seeing Su Sui spacing out, Sheng-Yi urged him to play his tile. But every tile looked bad, so he thought, I'll just play any random one. Just as Su Sui was about to play a tile, a voice suddenly said, "Play this one." Su Sui turned his head towards the voice behind him. It turned out Zhou Jinze had come in person to rescue him. Su Sui's heart was racing nervously because Zhou Jinze was standing right behind him. He never dreamed they could be this close. At this moment, Zhou Jinze had one hand on the table and the other on Su Sui's chair. "Sheng-Yi, you've detained my person. Then let's do best 2 out of 3. If you win, I'll return him. Su Sui heard this and anxiously wanted to refuse. But Zhou Jinza calmly reassured him, "It's fine. It'll be quick, but I think my heart is beating even faster." Because Zhou Jinza was standing behind him, occasionally leaning down to guide him. His black clothes brushed against Su Sui's shoulder, and the pleasant mint scent from his body wafted over. Su Sui's cheeks heated up, and his mind completely shut down. Zhou Jinza reached out, drew a tile, and asked, "What are you spacing out for?" Su Sui snapped back to reality and clenched his fist. "I can't be like this. I have to act like I don't care. Otherwise, the secret of my crush on him will have nowhere to hide." In fact, Zhou Jinza already knew. Suddenly, a shout of "Who?" startled Su Sui, and it was even a pure straight. He thought Zhou Jinza was just being polite, but he actually did it. 15 minutes later, the two pushed down their tiles and said in unison, "No more." Xingyi got angry, threw out some money, and said, "Hurry and leave. If you stay any longer, I'll lose everything." Zhou Jinza couldn't help but laugh. Wouldn't it have been better to let him go earlier? But Su Sui didn't dare to take Xingyi's money. Zhou Jinza affectionately tapped Su Sui's head. "Take it. Go buy some candy." Su Sui was confused, touching his head. "Does he think I'm a 3-year-old? On the way to Zhou Jinza's house, Su Sui finally got a chance to be alone with him. At this time, Su Sui called out his name. Tightly gripping the bag in his hand, he mustered up the courage to say, "By the way, thank you." Zhou Jinza didn't acknowledge it, instead asking, "How did you know it was me?" The answer was obvious. Who else could have persuaded them? So Su Sui just said he guessed. Su Sui se clever ne successfully pleased Su Jinze. Well, how do you plan to show your gratitude? Suddenly, he remembered the scene of Su Sui with Yuejia. He coldly said, "Or will you also treat me to bubble tea?" Su Sui immediately denied nervously, "No, it's not like that. I finally have a connection with you. How could it be just a bubble tea?" However, Zhou Jinza said he was just joking. After arriving at Jinghan, Su Sui watched the students' training. He asked curiously, "I don't think I've ever seen you wear a uniform." Zhou Jinza smiled mischievously. "What? Do you want to see me in one?" Su Sui blushed and quickly looked away, making excuses. "No, I just noticed Sheng Nanzhou wasn't wearing one either. I was just curious." Suddenly, a male student rushed towards Su Sui. Zhou Jinza quickly grabbed Su Sui's arm. Before the student could bump into him, he pulled Su Sui towards himself and protected him. "Well done, young man." Su Sui had liked Zhou Jinza for 4 years. Only today did he realize how tall Zhou Jinza was. Standing next to him, Su Sui only reached his shoulder, and he heard Zhou Jinza play the cello again. Su Sui was deeply moved. He could finally watch him play openly, no longer having to hide next door and secretly listen like before. After steadying Su Sui, Zhou Jinza immediately let go of his hand and maintained distance. He urged them to go to the rehearsal room. By now, the other members had arrived. Su Sui entered with a happy smile, apologizing. "Sorry I'm late. I think you could add that we look too much like a couple, don't we?" After some pleasantries, everyone decided to familiarize themselves with the instruments before playing together. Su Sui sat down, looking at the drum set in front of him. He picked up the drumsticks and skillfully twirled them. Seeing this, who would dare say Su Sui couldn't play the drums? In fact, if it weren't for Zhou Jinza, he might never have touched them again. This was a beautiful experience, but also a painful memory, because it reminded him of his deceased father. After every practice, his father would come to pick him up. Suddenly, the beautiful sound of a cello came from nearby. It instantly washed away his sad mood. It was Zhou Jinza playing the cello. Su Sui couldn't help but stare at the scene before him. So this is what he looks like when he plays. He was so focused, so handsome. His skills hadn't deteriorated at all. It was exactly the same as what he heard in high school. That day, Su Sui was passing by in the hallway. Through the window, he saw a girl hugging Zhou Jinza's neck. People around were cheering, "Hug, hug." When Zhou Jinza put his arm around the girl's waist, the scene deeply hurt Su Sui's heart. The laughter coming from inside further upset Su Sui, causing him to turn and run away. To avoid being discovered, he ran into the nearest classroom, then quickly closed the door. Unable to hold back anymore, he crouched down and began to feel sad. "I should have known better. Why should I be upset for him?" But fate always likes to play tricks on people. Just when Su Sui was about to lose hope, it gave him a new chance. At that moment, a beautiful melody came, Su Sui knew it was Zhou Jinza playing in the next classroom. The music was so beautiful that Su Sui couldn't bear to give up. Afterwards, Su Sui often came here to study, just to meet him again and hear him play. Now he could finally watch him play openly, imprinting his image deeply in his mind. When you like someone, how do you pursue them? Some people like to tease the other person, deriving pleasure from it. Some prefer to argue with the other person to attract their attention, while others choose to joke with the person, trying to touch their heartstrings. But there's one thing you absolutely shouldn't do. That is to disparage the person you like in front of others. Shengnan Zhou made this mistake, which caused him and Hu Qinshi to miss out on so many years together. This time, after they finished practicing, they prepared to go eat. Delu, being very tactless, asked Zhou Jinza why he changed schools. Because it touched a sore spot, Zhou Jinza didn't respond. So he quietly asked Shengnan Zhou, who also said he didn't know. From childhood to now, no one has ever figured out what your Zhou Yi is thinking. Of course you don't know. All your attention is on Hu Qinshi. Suddenly, a boy came over to ask for Hu Qinshi's number. Hu Qinshi was a bit surprised, pointing at herself and asking, "Me?" The boy, covering his head, replied, "Yes." To show goodwill, he joked that he wouldn't bother her in the middle of the night. Just as Hu Qinshi agreed and took out her phone, a hand promptly pressed on it. The owner of this hand was Sheng Nanzhou. "Bro, your eyes have a problem. Why don't I take you to the hospital?" Then, ignoring Hu Qinshi's warning, he started bad-mouthing her. "Don't be fooled by this girl's appearance. She's not only stupid but also has a bad temper. You definitely can't handle someone like her." Listening to Sheng Nanzhou's words, Hu Qinshi behind him remained silent, her face gloomy. Finally scaring off the rival, Sheng Nanzhou happily bid farewell. "Take care, bro." At this moment, he hadn't noticed Hu Qinshi's mood at all. Instead, he happily stopped her, urging her to go eat. But Hu Qinshi suddenly pushed him away. "Don't touch me. Do you think you know me so well?" The long-accumulated grievances caused her tears to flow uncontrollably. "Why do you always do this? If you dislike me so much, why do you always bring me along?" Seeing the girl crying in front of him, Sheng Nanzhou panicked. He tried to grab Hu Qinshi's hand to make amends, but she forcefully shook him off. Then she turned away sadly, covering her face and running off, leaving Sheng Nanzhou alone, shocked, watching her departing figure. He knew he had to explain clearly, otherwise the rift between them would grow larger. So he followed after her. The remaining three were left bewildered, watching this scene. Delu stupidly asked Zhou Jinza what was going on. He knew Sheng Nanzhou's feelings, but didn't say it out loud, answering, "I don't know." "So, are we still going to eat?" It seems they won't be able to eat now, because a call came from Zhou's family. Using the excuse of his grandfather being ill, they tricked Zhou Jinza into returning to Zhou's house. Back at the Zhou residence, facing Zhou Zhiba, Zhou Jinza's defenses were about to rise again. His nightmare was about to begin. Zhou Jinza has a biased father who doesn't like him. Not only did he never give him any fatherly love since childhood, but he also remarried shortly after his mother's death. Afterwards, he even saw the fatherly love he had long yearned for in a stepson. So Zhou Jinza completely gave up on his father, no longer holding any hope. But how can there be such a shameless person in this world? He even dared to hope that his son would return to wish him a happy birthday. Zhou Jinza laughed mockingly. "Leave this opportunity for your dear son." Learning that Zhou Jinza was unwilling to return, they used the excuse of his grandfather being ill to deceive him. Hearing that something happened to his grandfather, Zhou Jinza's face changed dramatically. He hurriedly rushed back to the Zhou residence. At the Zhou house, there was a Tao Yi who treated him like her own. "Young master is back. Have you eaten?" Only then did Zhou Jinza smile, lying that he had already eaten. Tao Yi worriedly asked, "Really?" "Don't lie to Aunt Tao." Suddenly, a man in white appeared from the side. It turned out to be Zhou Zhaba, coming out to face the music. Zhou Jinza didn't mince words, directly asking about his grandfather's condition. Zhou Zhaba, feeling guilty, coughed twice. "We called a doctor to check, and there was nothing wrong, so we sent him back." Zhou Jinza sneered. "You're really panicking out of concern. How would grandfather come here? It's more likely he deliberately beat you with his cane. But since I'm here, I might as well sit down and ask, why did you trick me to come? Could it be that you want to hear me say nonsense like, 'May your blessings be as vast as the eastern sea, and your longevity boundless'? I can't say such insincere words." As expected, Zhou Zhaba was infuriated. "Who told you to trick me here? You deserve it. Suddenly, a hand pressed on Zhou Zhaba's shoulder. It was his wife, Zhu Lin. You're so impatient. Let me handle this. Then, using the excuse of moving things, she sent him away. Fine, I'll sit here. Whatever tricks you have, go ahead and show them. At this moment, a woman's voice sounded. Zhou Jinza slowly turned his head. It was Zhou Zhanan's personal secretary, Zhao Yin. Is this about dividing the assets? If a boy is willing to consider a girl's feelings, it means he cares about this girl in his heart. He's developing in the direction of liking the girl. Time returns to the Zhou residence. It turns out Zhao Yin was there to have Zhou Jinza sign a contract. The chairman wishes to unconditionally gift 2 properties under his name and some company shares. As long as you sign, the gift deed will take effect. Then Zhao Yin handed over the pen with both hands. Zhou Jinza took the pen and looked towards Zhu Lin hiding in the shadows. She looked uneasy, as if worried Zhou Jinza would want more. However, Zhou Jinza was nonchalant and spoke lightly, changing the subject to ask Zhao Yin, Secretary Zhao, did you change your perfume? The previous one was more charming. Surprised by Zhou Jinza's attentiveness, Zhao Yin asked, how did you know? Zhou Jinza smiled lightly. Because the scent in your office last time was captivating. Suddenly, he felt something flying quickly towards his face. With a thud, the object grazed Zhou Jinza's brow and eye. But he remained completely calm, not even blinking. This was clearly Zhou Zhaba's handiwork. It was followed by a series of insults. Zhou Jinza slowly stood up. Instead of anger, he was all smiles. Isn't this what I learned from you? Zhu Yi, you should have some sense of crisis. Keep a close eye on him. Your belated concern is worthless. You might as well go kowtow on my mother's grave a few more times. As for my father's property, I don't care for it. You and your son can rest assured. After saying this, he left the Zhou residence. Su Sui had already finished dinner with Delu. He was now walking back to the dorm carrying Hu Qianqi's dinner. Suddenly, a taxi stopped in front of him. Su Sui's heart raced at that moment, staring blankly ahead. Because the person coming was Zhou Jinza, who had just returned from the Zhou residence. He seemed a bit surprised to see Su Sui. He walked over and asked, haven't eaten, right? This is porridge for Cici. After saying this, Su Sui was puzzled. He glanced secretly. Why did his voice sound hoarse? Upon looking, Su Sui's pupils dilated in shock. He just noticed the wound on Zhou Jinza's brow. Concerned, he asked, how did you get hurt? Zhou Jinza didn't explain the reason, just said, just bumped into something. But Su Sui was extremely worried. He hurriedly rummaged through his bag. He took out a cute band-aid and handed it over. Zhou Jinza was shocked at first, but the next second, he acted like a child throwing a tantrum. His eyes revealed dissatisfaction. Do you think I would use this thing? Su Sui received the signal. He lowered his eyes, disappointedly withdrew his hand, and apologized nervously. I'm sorry, this is all I have. Seeing Su Sui's sadness, Zhou Jinza ultimately couldn't bear to refuse. He reached out his hand and asked Su Sui, give it to me. When you see the person you like feeling sad, what way would you choose to cheer her up? Su Jinza sensed Su Sui's intentions. He finally accepted the band-aid he didn't like. He planned to treat Su Sui to a meal as thanks. Su Sui hesitated for a moment, but chose to lie, saying he hadn't eaten. Faced with this hard-to-come-by interaction, Su Sui couldn't bear to give it up. Moreover, seeing the wound on his forehead and the ointment he was carrying, he was very worried. He wanted to ask clearly what had happened, if the injury was serious. But Zhou Jinza's expressionless face said, don't bother me. Asking would probably worsen his mood. And with my current status, what position am I in to inquire? So he swallowed his words. At the restaurant, they ordered 2 portions of dumplings. The owner's wife kindly gave them 2 eggs as well. Normally, Su Sui would be very happy, but the feeling of fullness in his stomach left him without any appetite. He could only desperately add vinegar to his bowl to stimulate his appetite. Zhou Jinza asked curiously, you like vinegar that much? Su Sui smiled awkwardly and adjusted the taste. You can try adding a little less. Zhou Jinza didn't think much of it and added a bit of vinegar too. He found it did taste better. Afterwards, the two sat face to face, not saying a word. The atmosphere was very awkward. Seeing his preoccupied expression, Su Sui also became worried. How could he cheer him up? So he started telling brain teasers. But even after 3, it didn't work. Until they finished eating and went to pay, Zhou Jinza still had the same expression. Su Sui was troubled. They were really funny. Wasn't his sense of humor too high? If that's the case, I'll have to use my secret weapon. Su Sui patted Zhou Jinza's shoulder. He turned around and asked what was wrong. but he saw Su Sui cover his head with his jacket, arms tucked in the sleeves, fingers pulling down his lower eyelids, making a face at him. Zhou Jinza raised his eyebrows and asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm pretending to be a ghost." "Doesn't it look like one? A happy ghost?" This answer made Zhou Jinza laugh involuntarily. "What kind of adorable ghost are you?" The more he thought about it, the happier he became, showing his first genuine smile of the night. After Su Sui put his clothes back on properly, he heard his cheerful laughter. The weight in his heart finally lifted. "Great, you finally smiled. You're finally happy." After returning to the dorm, Su Sui received a thank you message from Zhou Jinza. He instinctively wanted to reply, "You're welcome," but felt it was too stiff. He changed it to a thoughtful greeting. After tonight, Zhou Jinza felt more familiar with and touched by Su Sui. Su Sui had also, in his own way, comforted the person in his heart. Although there were only a few messages, this was Su Sui's full care for Zhou Jinza. "You'll definitely have a good dream tonight. Good night. See you in early spring next year." Looking at Zhou, Jinza curled up in the corner with his eyes tightly shut. A hint of sympathy welled up in Su Sui's heart. So he really did have claustrophobia. Su Sui then heard his phone vibrate. He wondered who would be looking for him so late. It was Zhou Jinza responding to Sheng Nanzhou's request, asking Su Sui to help invite Hu Qianxi out. Because Sheng Nanzhou had angered Hu Qianxi before, she refused to see him. Now he couldn't even deliver an apology. Su Sui had probed Hu Qianxi about their situation. As a result, she was determined, leaving Su Sui helpless. But this wasn't difficult for Zhou Jinza, so he taught Su Sui to lie and trick her out first. Su Sui panicked. He couldn't lie. So when Hu Qianxi called him, he felt guilty and was startled. Under her scrutinizing gaze, Su Sui could only pretend to be calm. He said Zhou Jinza won a flying competition and wanted to treat them to a meal. But Hu Qianxi wasn't fooled. After all, they were only freshmen. What flying? Su Sui panicked more and quickly covered up, saying it was a helicopter competition. This finally convinced her, but she still cared whether Sheng Nanzhou would go. The pressure was immense. Su Sui's nervous eyes swirled like mosquito coils. Then he hypnotized himself to follow Zhou Jinza's method. He had to look into Hu Qianxi's eyes while speaking. This way he would feel confident. So with Zhou Jinza's strategy and Su Sui's sincerity, they finally managed to trick Hu Qianxi into coming. So when they arrived at the scene, Hu Qianxi saw the remorseful Sheng Nanzhou and her favorite mousse cake on the table. She immediately got angry, turned around and scolded. "Great, Su Sui, you've learned to lie too." It would be a lie to say he wasn't scared. So he quickly hid behind Zhou Jinza. Seeing Su Sui's action, Zhou Jinza looked sternly at Hu Qianxi, standing up to protect him. "I taught him." Then he left the venue for them to talk, taking Su Sui downstairs to buy cigarettes and get some air. While checking out, Su Sui's stomach happened to growl loudly. He felt embarrassed. His stomach really knew how to join in at the wrong time. Zhou Jinza naturally heard it and chuckled indulgently. He then ignored Su Sui's refusal and ordered him some Odin to fill his stomach. Then, considering Su Sui's embarrassment, he walked out alone to get some air. Such a thoughtful Zhou Jinza was really hard not to love. After getting the food, Su Sui pulled out a chair and sat behind him. There was only a transparent glass between them. While enjoying the food he gave, Su Sui couldn't help but look up at the broad back in front of him. Now he could openly look at him properly, even if it was just his back. When it was about time, they took the elevator up. Su Sui was still a bit worried if those two could reconcile. Zhou Jinza was about to speak calmly, when suddenly, the elevator malfunctioned. Then the lights went out too. Su Sui was so scared that he turned and shouted Zhou Jinza's name. But it was too dark, he couldn't see anyone at all. He tried to use his phone to call for help, but found the signal was poor. He could only turn on the flashlight and press the emergency button to report the situation. After doing all this, Su Sui was still very scared and urged them to hurry. Then he remembered Zhou Jinza had claustrophobia. Sure enough, he saw his condition was shocking. In the light, he found him curled up in the corner, eyes tightly shut, breathing rapidly. In Su Sui's impression, Zhou Jinza had always been a confident presence. He never expected to see such a vulnerable side of him. "Don't be afraid, Zhou Jinza. I'm here." At this moment, Zhou Jinza fell into a deep nightmare, tormented by the shadow of childhood abuse from his father. Those repeated beatings, made the already sick Zhou Jinza feel even worse, constantly begging for mercy. But it only led to his father's escalating insults. Seeing Zhou Jinza's distressed state, Su Sui anxiously called out his name beside him. But there was no response. At that moment, the phone ran out of battery and shut off. Without light, he could only rely on his memory to feel his way to Zhou Jinza's side. Regarding his current condition, Su Sui knew his claustrophobia had been triggered. His heart was filled with sympathy for him, but his condition was severe. No matter how Su Sui pushed or called him, there was no response. He still hugged himself tightly, shivering, deeply trapped in his psychological shadow. Those images surrounded him like drowning, making it hard for him to breathe. At the same time, the feeling of fear made his body feel cold. Suddenly, a warmth came from his wrist. He vaguely heard a girl calling him. Only then did Zhou Jinza escape the nightmare and slowly open his eyes. He heard Su Sui's gentle, comforting words. "Zhou Jinza, don't be afraid." Great! Su Sui finally woke him up. Zhou Jinza instinctively reached out towards Su Sui, but Su Sui quickly covered his hand. At this moment, their fingers were interlocked, tightly held together. Feeling the warmth from Su Sui's palm, Zhou Jinza's agitated emotions were soothed. After returning to the private room, Wu Qianxi had resumed her usual attitude and was talking to Sheng Nanzhou. Seeing only Su Sui return alone, she asked about his uncle's whereabouts. With such a big incident, he naturally left first. He didn't forget to settle the bill. Wu Qianxi started complaining about Sheng Nanzhou being stingy again. Watching them bicker, Su Sui smiled gently. They had finally reconciled, but remembering the scene earlier, his mood immediately plummeted, feeling distressed. In front of others, he always appeared arrogant, handling everything with ease, carefree and unrestrained. But in reality, he was kind to people and particularly attentive to girls. Such a boy should be given a lot of love. How did he end up with an illness that was the opposite? Su Sui guessed it must be related to his family. When a boy cares about his image in front of a girl, it means he has feelings for her. On the weekend, after Su Sui finished with the foreign teacher as agreed, he ignored the wails from Sheng Yan's family and planned to rush over to practice. But they all appeared at the door at the same time. It turned out this time's location was at Zhou Jinza's home. Coincidentally, his house had a music room. Most importantly, it was more convenient for Su Sui to go there. Su Sui was stunned upon hearing this, unconsciously replying, "Okay." But he was secretly happy inside. Was he looking forward to going to his house? It would be his first time going there. However, when they arrived at the door, they rang the doorbell for a long time with no answer. Instead, a German shepherd came, lying on the window and barking loudly at Sheng Nanzhou. His eyes lit up, and he instructed the dog, "Kei Yi, quickly wake up your dad." Since it was Su Sui's first time here, he asked if this dog belonged to Zhou Jinza. Just then, the protagonist came out. However, his face was gloomy and dissatisfied. He had heavy dark circles, obviously not having rested well. When he came to his senses and saw Su Sui standing at the door, with a bang, he quickly shut the door. "Ha, Zhou Jinza, what are you in a hurry for? Are you afraid of leaving a bad impression in front of the person you like?" After they came in, Zhou Jinza finally opened the curtains in the house. Then he opened the fridge and took out drinks to serve them. Delu excitedly envied Zhou Jinza's big house with no one to supervise, perfect for hosting parties. Hearing this, Zhou Jinza paused. Yes, big enough for just him, and only him now. Then, hiding his bitterness, he told them to come and choose their drinks. Delu approached and was shocked again to see it full of drinks. Zhou Jinza nonchalantly mocked that there's nothing else, just plenty of drinks. Then Delu eagerly clamored to see the music room. Since entering, Su Sui had been constantly observing Zhou Jinza's emotions. After a week apart, he seemed to have reverted to his carefree self, just like before. Was he really okay? After leading everyone to the music room, Delu was so envious of the environment that he wanted to lie down and not move. Even the usually composed Su Sui couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Su Sui's voice caught Zhou Jinza's attention. He thoughtfully explained the question at the door. His name is Kratos. Zhou Jinza's sudden remark confused Su Sui a bit. The next second, he understood what he meant. He had heard his question at the door. Kratos is a good name, Su Sui said. He had underestimated the pain of a secret crush. He thought that after spending time together, he had gradually entered Zhou Jinza's heart. But Zhou Jinza once again dealt Su Sui a fatal blow. Everyone was now discussing which song to perform. But Sheng Nanzhou and Lu's suggestions weren't very suitable, either too gentle or too outrageous. Hu Qianqian listened with helplessness. Su Sui then spoke softly. Zhou Jinze was immediately drawn to his voice, secretly anticipating his answer. Sure enough, Su Sui surprised him again. He suggested using Mayday's Stubborn with an adapted version. The song's background was also suitable. I quite like listening to it. Before Zhou Jinze could express his surprise, Sheng Nanzhou quickly turned to Su Sui with a gossipy look. Mayday's Stubborn? How did you know it's young Master Zhou's favorite song? Did you do some research in advance because you like him? With his feelings so blatantly exposed by Sheng Nanzhou, Su Sui was incredibly flustered. He could have easily made up an excuse, but at that moment his mind went blank, unable to utter a single word. At the crucial moment, Zhou Jinze's good manners instinctively came to Su Sui's rescue. I told him about it, so Sheng Nanzhou's attention shifted to Zhou Jinze. But no matter how suggestive Sheng Nanzhou's gaze was, Zhou Jinze maintained a calm face, completely ignoring him. It was a masterful display of silence, speaking louder than words, thoroughly defeating Sheng Nanzhou. He didn't pursue it further. Su Sui finally escaped death and breathed a sigh of relief. He secretly glanced at Zhou Jinze, his fondness for him increasing even more. But what Zhou Jinze said next completely broke Su Sui's heart. In the end, they all agreed to adopt Su Sui's suggestion. While looking for records to practice, Sheng Nanzhou suddenly kicked a large box. He saw it was sealed with tape. Arousing his curiosity, he asked if he could look inside. Zhou Jinze didn't remember, thinking it was old stuff packed away by the housekeeper. So he agreed. When they opened it, everyone was envious, because it was full of love letters and gifts. Sheng Nanzhou was attracted by a large gift box. Opening it, he found a Mayday album. A small box inside fell out due to gravity. After opening and seeing what was inside, he excitedly shouted, "I'm impressed. This is absolutely the most thoughtful gift I've ever seen." Then he showed the gift under his gaze. It was a box of ointment for external wounds and a bag of finger cots. Zhou Jinze was undeniably shocked when he saw it, but it was just shock. Then he returned to his usual demeanor, urging him to come rehearse, as if what just happened was insignificant. At this moment, Su Sui's mood plummeted. As happy as he was before, he was now equally sad. The gift he had given him in high school with such anticipation, he didn't care about at all. He hadn't even opened it. But heaven seemed to think Su Sui's pain wasn't enough. After the rehearsal, Sheng Nanzhou asked with a gossipy face, "You really can't remember who gave you that gift?" Zhou Jinze replied nonchalantly, "So many people give me gifts. Do I have to think about each one?" Poor Su Sui, his sincere feelings wasted. Gentleness is most touching to the heart, but also the most hurtful. From their first encounter, from the moment he saw him, from the moment he eagerly helped bring him a chair, Su Sui was conquered by his gentleness. But the deeper the love, the higher the hope, and the more painful the disappointment. Now, Zhou Jinze's words, "So many people give me gifts. Do I have to think about each one?" completely shattered Su Sui's fantasy. All these years, it was just his one-sided love. Hu Qianqi first noticed Su Sui's unusual behavior and asked about his condition. To avoid worrying Hu Qianqi, he forced a smile and said he was fine. How could he be fine? The hurtful words were like a knife. How much pain must he be feeling inside? So Su Sui used feeling unwell as an excuse to say goodbye to them. He left alone first. Of course, everyone was concerned about him. Wu Qianqi even wanted to accompany him back, but he just wanted to be alone now, so he said it was fine, and he let them know when he got home. Zhou Jinze was clearly worried, but Su Sui reassured him again that it was fine. Hearing nearby girls discussing birthday gifts for male friends, suggesting to give what they like, he felt an uncontrollable pain in his heart. Back then, he had done the same, giving him a gift with such anticipation. But what did he get in return? She didn't even look at it and didn't even remember who he was, even though he had helped her in high school. 3 years ago, when Su Sui just transferred to Class 3, because of his introverted personality and ordinary appearance, he didn't attract his classmates' attention. Everyone just minded their own business, treating him as if he were invisible. He found that the chair assigned to him was missing. He asked the classmates nearby, but no one was willing to respond. Just as he called out to ask again, someone bumped into him from behind. He stumbled and accidentally stepped on the person's shoe behind him, leaving a clear footprint. Su Sui anxiously apologized, but surprisingly, the person wasn't angry. Instead, noticing his confusion, the other's polite manner and helpfulness surprised Su Sui. But when he saw his face clearly, he was even more amazed. This was Su Sui and Zhou Jin's first encounter. The boy's charm deeply attracted his heart. Su Sui stared at him blankly and nodded. Zhou Jin's still replied with those two words, "Wait here." Then he quickly ran away with a basketball in his arms. 10 minutes later, he appeared, panting, carrying a chair from the 5th floor. He gently put it down in front of Su Sui, who thanked him. Before he could say more, a voice called out, "Zhou Jinza." It was other classmates impatiently urging him to play basketball. So in a hurry, Zhou Jinza ran away from him once again. This time, his clothes accidentally brushed against Su Sui's hand. Just like that, coming and going, Zhou Jinza didn't know that he had stolen Su Sui's heart. At this moment, Su Sui felt like he was suffocating. So this was the pain of unrequited love. All these years of waiting were just his own fantasy. He was tired, so Su Sui decided to take back the heart he had given to Zhou Jinza. The help during their first youthful encounter made Su Sui fall for him secretly. His gaze involuntarily followed that figure. He hoped that every seat change would bring him closer to him. The only way to get close to him was when collecting homework. His heart would be uncontrollably happy at those times. After silently liking him for a year, they had another interaction. That day, while Su Sui was getting water, he heard two girls excitedly shout a name. "Zhou Jinza!" Su Sui's heart skipped a beat. Hearing footsteps behind him, Su Sui's body tensed up. It turned out he was also coming to get water. He didn't dare to look directly, but he could steal glances from the corner of his eye. Those hands covered in scars trembled slightly under the increasing weight. Su Sui felt heartbroken. His hands must be in pain. After this brief encounter, Zhou Jinza left silently after getting water. But the concern for him didn't lessen with his departure. Instead, he learned from the girls that Zhou Jin's birthday was coming up soon. This turned into a desire to give him a birthday gift. So after school, Su Sui braved the scorching weather. He went to the music store, pharmacy, and instrument shop in order. Finally, he used 2 beautiful boxes of different sizes to pack a Mayday album, finger cots, and ointments separately. From the packaging of the gift box and the thoughtfulness inside, it's easy to see how deep Su Sui's feelings for Zhou Jinza were. He didn't expect anything in return, only hoping that the wounds on his hands would heal quickly. So Su Sui didn't plan to let anyone know. Just as he was about to put the gift in Zhou Jin's desk, something unexpected happened. He saw a group of boys skipping class come in, which startled Su Sui. They not only mocked Su Sui's intentions, but also insulted his appearance and physique. They said Zhou Jinza wouldn't be interested in someone like him. Hearing their laughter, Su Sui felt extremely embarrassed. Just then a basketball hit one of the jeering boys. As he was about to curse in anger, seeing who had arrived, he deflated like a ball. Zhou Jinza looked displeased, saying this wasn't fun anymore. Clearly, he had heard their conversation. He slowly walked to Su Sui's side. Su Sui was now full of shame, wishing he could find a hole to crawl into. Zhou Jinza noticed the girl's helplessness. The best way to handle this now was to openly accept the gift from Su Sui's hands. Hearing his voice, Su Sui looked up at Zhou Jinza with moist eyes. Although there was a mishap, at least the gift was successfully delivered to him. Zhou Jinza accepted the gift and thanked him. Su Sui instinctively replied, "You're welcome." Then he quickly left with his head down. Su Sui knew Zhou Jinza wasn't at fault. He accepted the gift out of respect and helped him out during the rehearsal. He hadn't changed. He was always this gentle. And Su Sui's appearance wasn't outstanding at that time. The gift he gave was the most ordinary among thousands, even if it hadn't been opened. But this gesture was ultimately wasted. A feeling of helpless sadness welled up in his heart. He felt like giving up. Liking someone isn't something you can forget just by saying so. His heart still uncontrollably paid attention to Zhou Jin's information. Since Su Sui was hurt by Zhou Jinza, he never went out to meet with them again. After refusing several times, Xingnan Zhou noticed something was wrong. "Su Sui seems to be avoiding us," he asked Wu Qianxi. He didn't think there was a problem with Su Sui's reasons. So he continued to ask Zhou Jinza, who was absent-mindedly drinking soup nearby. At this moment, he lowered his eyes, feeling a bit upset. Being observant, he had already noticed Su Sui's situation. So that day his smile was fake. However, he chose to ignore Xingnan Zhou's words and replied irrelevantly that the soup was delicious. Zhou Jin's unusual behavior aroused Sheng Nanzhou's suspicion. But Wu Qinqi interrupted, saying Su Sui was just under a lot of study pressure lately, unlike him who only cared about playing. Sheng Nanzhou immediately protested, dissatisfied. But Zhou Jinza lost patience listening to his nonsense and coldly urged them to finish eating and return to training quickly. Still on the rooftop of a university, the sky was gray at the moment, very much like Su Sui's inner state after being hurt. It was the same familiar greeting. Mom was worried about her daughter being unfamiliar with the place, so she specially sent red pomelos from home for him to take to improve his relationship with Su Yucheng and feel Mom's full love. The pain in his heart lessened a bit. He smiled and replied, telling Mom not to worry about him. But when he heard Grandma's loving voice asking if he was cold, the grievances in his heart were infinitely magnified. As if finding someone to rely on, he couldn't help but act coquettishly with Grandma, seeking comfort. Actually, it was a bit cold. The old lady heard this and felt distressed. She immediately asked about his well-being. He never thought nagging could make one feel so secure. Smiling, he reassured Grandma not to worry. As long as he didn't go out, there was heating indoors. It wasn't cold. Then he reminded Grandma to take care of herself, saying he'd come back to see her during the holidays. After hanging up the phone, he realized that the rooftop was now chilly and very cold. In fact, Su Sui was very sensitive to cold. He had traveled far from the south to study in the north because of that obsession in his heart. Now, a single sentence from Zhou Jinza had completely shattered his obsession. Even though his heart was already scarred, he decided to stay away from him from now on. But how can you forget someone you like just by saying so? From the moment he stood on this rooftop, from when he entered Zhou Jin's social circle, from when he unconsciously opened his social media, their life paths had already intersected. So this decision was only one-sided. Moreover, he couldn't control his heart's desire to be close to Zhou Jinza. If he wanted to escape this truly, the only way was to leave for a place where Zhou Jinza wasn't. After Su Sui was hurt by Zhou Jinza's attitude, he decided to give up his feelings for him. Although he would still unconsciously pay attention to his news, it didn't mean he would compromise. Since he couldn't control his heart, he would control his words and actions towards him. Soon it was time for practice again. It was chilly outside. Zhou Jinza was a bit slow in opening the door, giving Hu Qianqian a chance to complain. Compared to Hu Qianqian's familiarity, Su Sui, on the contrary, changed his usually shy personality and didn't even greet him, walking straight past. Zhou Jinza just watched Su Sui like this, until he went in without looking back. He raised his eyebrows in surprise. He seemed to have guessed the source of Su Sui's unusual behavior. After 3 hours of intense practice, everyone was exhausted and collapsed on the sofa. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to the pomelos on the table. He asked if they could eat them. Su Sui casually replied and picked one up to open for them to taste. But since this wasn't his home, he asked Hu Qianqian where the knife was. Hu Qianqian pointed to the kitchen. Su Sui went to the kitchen, looked around, but didn't see it. As he continued to search carefully, suddenly a voice from behind said, "It's on top." Su Sui's heart skipped a beat when he heard this familiar voice. The owner of the voice was Zhou Jinza. He skillfully opened the cabinet on the wall, took out the knife from inside, then took the pomelo from Su Sui's hand. As the pomelo skin was cut open, its fragrance spread through the room. Just then, Zhou Jinza wanted to talk to Su Sui. "You've been busy lately?" Su Sui awkwardly answered behind him. Soon, the pomelo was ready. He casually handed half to Su Sui. Afterwards, he didn't rush to leave, but leaned against the counter, looking at Su Sui opposite him. The girl's silence made Zhou Jinza unsure how to find another chance to speak to her. Su Sui finally couldn't resist and tried to steal a glance at him, but she was caught red-handed by his observing gaze. Zhou Jinza took the opportunity to voice his guess. "So you're avoiding me?" Su Sui was very surprised. She didn't expect him to notice, but she didn't admit it. Instead, she lowered her head and denied it, saying she was busy with studies. Seeing the girl's distant behavior towards him, he felt a sharp pain and helplessness in his heart. He also clearly knew she was lying. Zhou Jinza didn't expose her lie directly. He just calmly replied that it was okay. He would find another chance to talk to her. Since realizing that Su Sui was intentionally avoiding him, Zhou Jinza wanted to change, but Su Sui wouldn't even give him a chance. He could only remain silent, watching Su Sui leave him again. After rehearsal, Wu Qinqi wanted to invite Su Sui to have dinner together. Su Sui said she had to go tutor Sheng Yinjia. Speaking of her brother, Sheng Nanzhou had praised Su Sui like a god. He actually got a high score on this test. Wu Qianxi immediately proudly praised her friend. Su Sui wasn't arrogant, giving Sheng Yinjiao proof that he had studied hard. Because time was tight, she had to hurry over after speaking. Suddenly, Zhou Jinzi walked in front of Su Sui first. I happen to be going there today, too. Let's go together. At this moment, little Sheng Yinjiao was pouting with a bitter face, complaining that there was no love, because this week's homework wasn't checked, but increased instead. Su Sui smiled and comforted him, but it doesn't affect the teacher's liking for you. Hearing this, Sheng Yinjiao's little face actually blushed slightly. He became awkward and called out to Su Sui. Su Sui thought he wanted her to play with him again. As for playing, this time you have your brother Zhou Jinzi to accompany you. Then he opened a drawer, took out 2 movie tickets. It turned out he wanted to invite Su Sui to watch a movie. Su Sui didn't think much and agreed with a smile. Sheng Yinjia immediately beamed. You must promise to come, okay? Su Sui walked to the door, turned back, and agreed again. Just then, Sheng Nanzhou came in and wanted to invite Su Sui to stay for dinner. Su Sui looked up, glancing indifferently at Zhou Jinzi, who was following behind. She still made an excuse, saying she needed to go back to catch up on sleep. Rejected again, Sheng Nanzhou looked a bit embarrassed. But Su Sui pretended not to see it, asking Sheng Nanzhou to thank Sheng Yanai for her kindness. Passing by Zhou Jinzi, she still didn't say a word to him and left directly. Seeing Su Sui's distant attitude towards him again, Zhou Jinzi felt a sting, but could only silently watch her departing figure. Sheng Nanzhou was only focused on Su Sui and didn't notice Zhou Jinzi's unusual behavior. He even said Su Sui had been a bit strange lately. How could he not know? The source of the problem was him. Now, how should he make amends? So this frustration was successfully vented on the game, making Sheng Yinjiao's character die miserably. Zhou Jinzi saw that Sheng Yinjiao wasn't crying, but smiling happily. He asked curiously if it was because he had invited teacher Su to watch a movie. His face full of joy. The answer was practically written all over it, and he was going to confess to teacher Su that day. Suddenly feeling his heart skip a beat, Zhou Jinzi asked unhappily, "What do you like about her?" So, Sheng Nanzhou rattled off a list of Su Sui's good qualities. "You have good taste," he said, but chose to discourage him. "You little brat, you're not even grown up yet, trying to confess. You can't even write properly. Besides, teacher Su is paid to teach you. How could she like a game-loving, poor-performing couch potato like you?" He made Sheng Yinjia cry angrily, pushing him towards the door. "Brother, I hate people like you. You don't understand what love is." With a bang, Zhou Jinzi was mercilessly shut out. At this moment, he recalled Sheng Yinjia's comments about him. It seemed everyone around him said the same thing. They also said he hadn't considered their future. Zhou Jinzi gave a bitter smile. It was a joke. He didn't even know where his own future lay. In the past, Su Sui would get very nervous when she saw Zhou Jinzi. Now, seeing his figure only made her heart ache, so now she tried to avoid any contact with him. Zhou Jinzi saw Su Sui's distance once again. He wanted to change, but felt helpless. So this time he followed Sheng Yinjia to watch the movie and also to keep a close eye on the little guy. However, Sheng Yinjia was still angry at Zhou Jinzi. Suddenly, he noticed a familiar figure in his peripheral vision. It was his beloved teacher, Su, who had arrived. He called out to Su Sui excitedly. Su Sui heard the voice and walked closer. The moment she saw Zhou Jinzi, she froze. In the past, when she wanted to see him, she never could. Now that she wanted to give up, he kept appearing before her eyes. Su Sui didn't ask why he was here. She ignored him and greeted Sheng Yinjia with a smile. Zhou Jinzi remained silent, watching her smile. His heart began to ache again. This made him more determined to remove the thorn in Su Sui's heart. When asking Su Sui what movie she wanted to watch, she gave Zhou Jinzi another surprise. It turned out Su Sui liked horror movies. Zhou Jinzi smiled indulgently. "Su Sui, how many more surprises are you hiding?" Zhou Jinzi wasn't very interested in horror movies. Sheng Yinjia was trembling with fear at the plot. In contrast, Su Sui watched with particular attention. Suddenly, a flash of displeasure crossed Zhou Jinzi's eyes. because this little guy was trying to lean towards Su Sui, taking advantage of the situation. Zhou Jinzi sneered. "Little brat, you're not even fully grown, and you're trying to take advantage." He quickly reached out to pull him back to his side. "All right, behave yourself." Until the movie ended, Su Song didn't make a sound. She even took out her phone to take pictures, still engrossed. In contrast, Sheng Yinjia was almost traumatized, but Su Song didn't notice. She then posted a friend circle visible only to herself. The satisfaction on her face was visible to the naked eye, making it difficult for Zhou Jinzi to ignore. So he smiled and asked Su Song, "Is this enough?" Su Sui was surprised that he noticed her mood. She suddenly felt a bit happy, so she openly admitted her hobby in front of him. Su Sui had finally forgiven Zhou Jinzi. Su Sui's admiration for Zhou Jinzi stemmed from his cultivation and attentiveness. Now, to help her get a doll with sentimental value, he wasn't afraid to shamelessly ask the staff. Su Sui found his behavior a bit amusing. At the same time, the entanglement in her heart disappeared completely. Coming out of the cinema, Sheng Yinjia was attracted by the claw machine. He urged Zhou Jinzi to quickly exchange for game tokens. Su Sui was infected by his innocence and showed an indulgent smile. Before leaving, Zhou Jinzi told Su Sui, "Actually, it was just 2 steps away, no need to say anything." After he walked away, Su Sui's attention was drawn to something in front of her. She unconsciously walked closer. Inside the machine were neatly arranged cabbage dolls. Su Sui stared at them blankly. Her eyes revealed a sad emotion. Zhou Jinzi approached her side at some point and asked. She wanted it, of course, because when she was young, her busy father bought her one for company. Later, after her father passed away, it was lost during a move. Even though Su Sui was feeling sad inside, she smiled and said she didn't need it now that she was grown up. How could Zhou Jinzi not understand the feeling of losing a loved one? It's just a doll after all. With a cocky attitude, he made a promise to Su Sui. "Master Zhou will get it for you." Indeed, young people don't know the cruelty of society. Claw machines are notorious for wasting money. You think you've got it when you grab it? Don't celebrate too early. The moment you operate the rope to lift it, it's already quietly slipping from the claw. It looks like it's just a little bit away, but in reality, it's far off. At this moment, both of them were extremely disappointed watching the toy fall. Zhou Jing looked embarrassed, but continued operating the machine. "It's okay, we'll try again. Next time for sure." 15 minutes later, over 100 coins had vanished like stones in the sea. As a result, they didn't even get a glimpse of a doll. Zhou Jinzi was almost at his wit's end, but still went to exchange for more game tokens. Su Sui once again pulled his clothes to stop him. She said, "It's okay, I really don't want it that much." "Little liar, you clearly wanted it just now." Suddenly, they heard the staff coming to arrange the dolls behind them. Zhou Jinzi saw the cabbage dolls in the basket. His eyes lit up. He wanted to buy them outright. The staff was exasperated. They definitely couldn't sell them. Otherwise, how would they scam people in the future? But Zhou Jinzi persisted, even offering a high price. Su Song quietly tried to dissuade him, saying this money was enough to buy one online. But he wouldn't give up, still wanting to buy the toy. Su Sui found it a bit amusing. She simply hugged his arm and pulled him away. Zhou Jinzi was very dissatisfied about not being able to get the toy for Su Sui. Su Sui stared at his expression. At that moment, she forgave Zhou Jinzi in her heart. Whatever, he was indeed worthy of her affection, and she couldn't control herself either. Her feelings had overcome her pride. Su Sui forgave Zhou Jinzi and decided to be honest with him. However, it wasn't about confessing her feelings, but to inform him that they were high school classmates. After hearing this, Zhou Jinzi felt guilty towards Su Sui for the first time. When they came out of the cinema, it had started snowing outside. Children have zero resistance to snow. With Zhou Jinzi's permission, Sheng Yinjia ran out immediately. So Su Sui suggested sitting on the bench outside to wait for him. Because Su Sui was from the south, the sudden drop in temperature made her shiver involuntarily. The attentive Zhou Jinzi noticed her discomfort. Just like at the previous gathering, he bought Su Sui a warm drink. Su Sui took it from his hand and found it was actually hot. She looked at him with surprise and thanked him. At this moment, feeling the warmth in her palm, her heart beat rapidly out of control. It was this attentiveness that deeply attracted Su Song. Not just Su Song. Even Man wanted to have such a caring boyfriend. Noticing the cold drink in his hand, she asked, "Aren't you cold?" As a pure Northeast man, he replied, "One sip and it's all good." After speaking, he remembered Su Sui's unusual attitude earlier. He wondered if it was because of Sheng Nanzhou's joke or if he had done something wrong. Su Sui lowered her eyes and shook her head. They hadn't done anything wrong. It was just that she had little presence back then. So, Su Sui didn't reveal the real reason. Instead, full of hope, she told him they were high school classmates. As a result, Zhou Jinza was stunned, clearly not expecting this answer. With the first groundwork laid, Su Sui was much calmer this time. "It's okay if you don't remember." "How could it be okay?" Zhou Jinza silently repeated Su Sui's name, searching his high school memories. There was indeed a girl who often asked him to collect homework. He also heard classmates around him betting on who would win in a race. He remembered the girl's profile, which was indeed very similar to Su Sui now. As the memories overlapped, he realized it was Su Sui. A pang of guilt surged in his heart. So they were really high school classmates, but he had completely forgotten. "You've changed a lot. I'm sorry." Although this apology came a bit late, Su Sui had already forgiven him. He accepted it too. After all, she wasn't outstanding back then, while he was the pride of heaven, the center of attention. "Su Sui, you're not dim. The current you deserves Zhou Jinza's pursuit." Seeing her drink bottle being knocked down by him, she was a bit surprised. Zhou Jinza looked at Su Sui solemnly. "Let's get to know each other again." At this moment, Su Sui was very happy, because she had finally moved from being a nobody into his life, and was remembered by him. All the hardships she had endured were worth it. This way, she could be one step closer to his heart. Su Sui's feelings for Zhou Jinza had always been open and honest. So in the face of Bai Yue's reminder, although Su Sui felt a twinge of pain in her heart, everyone was competing fairly, and she wouldn't back down. Time quickly arrived at the Firefly Joy competition venue. The makeup room backstage at Jingheng was busy. Suddenly, a girl's drink was bumped by someone. The liquid inside spilled towards Su Sui, staining her clothes. Feeling the temperature on her clothes, Su Sui inhaled sharply in pain. Hearing Hu Qianxi's angry scolding, the girl quickly asked Su Sui if she was burned and offered to clean her clothes. Su Sui held back the angry Hu Qianxi, suggesting she go clean up herself and try if the dryer would work. Wu Qianxi was very worried. The dryer wouldn't work at all. Borrowing a set of clothes would be most practical. But at this critical moment, who could save them? Suddenly, an unexpected person called out, "I have one." It was Bai Yue, who had previously had issues with Su Song, but the size might not fit. "Do you want it?" Su Sui looked at Bai Yue and said calmly, "If I were Man, I probably wouldn't take it. After all, I couldn't get past that mental barrier." So Bai Yue was equally surprised when Su Sui actually agreed. However, this time he didn't play any tricks. He turned around and called for Su Sui to follow him to change clothes. As expected of someone who caught Zhou Jinza's eye, Bai Yue's taste was quite good. The white long dress in his hand looked much better than what Su Sui was wearing. Su Sui took the dress and apologized to him. As a result, Su Sui's actions left Bai Yue at a loss. Her calmness gave him no chance to be mean. He could only turn his face away proudly and say, "We're even now." Oh my. Suddenly the redeemed Bai Yue seemed quite handsome. Seeing Su Sui come out in the new dress, Wu Qianxi's eyes sparkled. "Wow, Sui babe, you look beautiful." But the dress was still too big. She needed clips or pins. As if by coincidence, Shi Yuejie seemed to have caught the scent and came over. Seeing Su Sui's troubled expression, he asked what happened. Su Sui stammered. Noticing her hand constantly covering her chest, he understood. His heart leapt with joy. He took off his brooch and handed it to her. Although Su Sui really needed it, he was still of the opposite sex. Sure, Yuejin knew what she was concerned about. He just said it was help from a senior, so Su Sui felt at ease accepting it. Smiling, she thanked him. "Thank you, senior. I'll return it to you." Wu Qianxi, who witnessed the whole process, realized that in Su Sui's heart, Shi Yuejie was just her senior. On the way to the competition venue, Bai Yue leaned against the wall alone. As Su Sui passed by, he spoke up, "You're quite lucky, but you can't handle him." He knew all too well the pain of pursuing Zhou Jinza. But they had recently gotten reacquainted, so she would try her best to win Zhou Jinza's heart. "Thanks for lending me the dress, but I never owed you anything. We met again in college. He didn't recognize me. The second time we met, I was his niece's roommate. The third time we met, he had already broken up with you. I'm not the third party you speak of, so I didn't break up your relationship by interfering. Su Sui was beautiful on stage tonight, beautiful enough to make Zhou Jing's heart flutter. Having practiced with her for so long, he hadn't noticed. It turned out she could smile so happily on stage. Su Sui dealt with it. Bai Yue was a few minutes late. Seeing his anxious look, Zhou Jing's carefully comforted him. It's okay. The timing is just right. At this moment, all five appeared neatly in the center of the stage, their faces beaming with smiles, determined to win first place in this competition. However, Zhou Jingze, the focus of the band, chose to stand at the back. Facing the enthusiastic cheers from the audience, Zhou Jingze didn't respond. Instead, he secretly said to Su Sui beside him, "Very beautiful." Su Sui was stunned amidst the chants of Zhou Jingze. When she came to her senses, she was overjoyed. Turning her face, she saw Zhou Jingze smiling slightly, looking straight ahead, as if he hadn't just said those words. Su Sui's heart was bubbling with happiness. It didn't matter if he didn't admit it. She heard it anyway. Yes, Man heard it too. 1 minute later, everyone was ready, poised to begin. With a snap of Delu's fingers, the performance of the five officially began. Delu's passionate voice, Sheng Nanzhou's soft and rhythmic charm, and Hu Qianqian's crisp and melodious guitar sound. As they approached the climax of the song, Delu signaled Zhou Jingze behind him to play. The steady and elegant sound of the cello resonated throughout the venue. Su Sui also skillfully twirled her drumsticks, following the rhythm of the music to beat the drums. At this moment, Su Sui was very grateful that she had learned to play the drums back then. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had the chance to perform with him today. As the song gradually reached its climax, it felt as if a powerful force was surging through their bodies, encouraging them to move forward bravely and pursue their dreams. The audience below was boiling with excitement. The championship trophy was naturally theirs. However, Zhou Jingze stayed behind modestly and didn't go up to receive the award. Suddenly, a guy behind him said lecherously that there was a girl in the team who looked very pretty. He wanted Zhou Jingze to introduce her. Initially, he thought it was Hu Qianqian and said there was no chance, until the other person handed over his phone. Zhou Jingze then realized that the girl he was talking about was Su Sui. It turned out that this performance unexpectedly made Su Sui go viral. Someone even found out she was from the neighboring school. Zhou Jingze coldly looked at the content of the post. Below were all requests for contact information. After all, who could resist a soft girl playing drums? This person had even recorded Su Sui's performance. He also said that when Su Sui smiled at the audience, his legs went weak. I advise you not to have unrealistic hopes. Su Sui's smile wasn't for you. It was for Zhou Jingze's very beautiful comment and the joy of being able to perform with him. Zhou Jingze couldn't help but be attracted by Su Sui's charm. So, this was how she looked on stage just now. The guy beside him rarely saw Zhou Jingze in a daze. He asked with a gossipy face, "You like this kind of good girl too?" It's time for the confession side story update. Watching the doll fall from the claw, Zhou Jingze felt deeply frustrated for the first time, and Su Sui's guilt grew deeper. So she carefully pulled Zhou Jingze's sleeve to persuade him to give up. Suddenly, sweet praises from couples behind them were heard. "Ah, we got it. So cute. I love it. Little brother is so amazing. Give me another one." At this moment, hearing those honey and your great praises, the two felt extremely awkward. Su Sui was so nervous her eyes turned into mosquito coil shapes. Zhou Jingze turned his face and asked, "Do you want to play more?" Su Sui hugged Zhou Jingze's arm, blushing at his question, and obediently said, "I want to." Side story 2. Su Sui treats them to a meal. Liang Shuang asks, "Hey little girl, why are you so happy?" Under Wu Qianqi's scrutinizing gaze, Su Sui feels very guilty. Maybe because studying has been going well recently. But the slap in the face came quickly. The waiter was walking over with a cake. "Happy birthday to the beautiful Miss Su. You can enjoy an 88% discount on this consumption. This is a complimentary birthday cake from our store." At this point, Wu Qianqi and Liang Shuang realized it was Su Sui's birthday. Wu Qianqi was so upset she grabbed Su Sui and shook her. "Why didn't you tell me it's your birthday? I didn't prepare a gift." Oh no, I'm sorry." But having these two best friends accompany her for dinner already made her very happy. For her, this was the best gift. Zhou Jingze was attracted to Su Sui tonight. The unconscious care he showed towards her, and his genuine smile. It can't be faked. It seems our Sui Bao has finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel. Zhou Jingze heard the boys' questions, but ignored them. After watching the video, he clicked on permanent delete. Her image imprinted in his heart was enough. Other boys shouldn't even think about touching her. The northern winter night, with whistling cold wind, was bitterly cold. Zhou Jingze stayed behind alone to pick up Su Sui for the celebration party. After a short wait, Su Sui walked out of the room. She noticed a tall figure in her peripheral vision. Realizing it was Zhou Jingze, she was very surprised. Her heart leaped. "Were you waiting for me?" Zhou Jingze heard her voice, turned to see her still in her formal dress, and felt a bit sorry for her. He carefully extinguished the cigarette he had just lit. He urged her to change clothes. Zhou Jingze knew Su Sui was very sensitive to cold because her body was shivering from the cold. But it wasn't just that. If Zhou Jingze had moved a bit closer, he would have noticed Su Sui's skin was red from the cold. However, in Zhou Jingze's view, Su Sui was clutching her chest, her heart racing, feeling signs of warmth. She explained her clothes were dirty and she was about to go change. To avoid keeping him waiting, she hurriedly turned to rush back to the dormitory. But how could Zhou Jingze let her go back like this? The temperature outside was colder than inside. Running out like this, she might catch a cold, so he took off his coat and put it on her. "Wear this before you run." Su Sui felt the warmth on her body, her heart beating even faster at this moment. She stood there dumbfounded, then came to her senses, worried about Zhou Jingze getting cold. She wanted to return the coat. It was obvious who needed the coat more between the two of them. Moreover, he was a grown man, a little cold wouldn't hurt. "When I tell you to wear it, just wear it." Only then did Su Sui obediently say thank you. If it had been Shiryu giving her the coat, Su Sui would have returned it without hesitation. Watching Su Sui quickly run away, Zhou Jingze showed an indulgent smile. "What a silly girl. If it were any other girl, they'd be begging me to take off my clothes." Although Jinghan and Yi were close, a round trip of 15 minutes was still tight. Because Su Sui didn't want to keep Zhou Jingze waiting too long. Zhou Jingze often moved between the two campuses, so he naturally noticed this. Looking at him, she even put the clothes in a bag and thanked him. This cautiousness made Zhou Jingze feel very uncomfortable. He called out to her, startling Su Sui, who thought she had done something wrong. Zhou Jingze asked in a reproachful tone, "Do you have to be so formal with me?" Su Sui couldn't handle Zhou Jingze like this. She immediately became anxious and couldn't speak clearly. She usually spoke quite logically, but why couldn't she say anything in front of him? Zhou Jingze was amused by Su Sui's embarrassment. He took the clothes from her hand. "I'm not teasing you, let's go. We'll get a taxi up ahead." Zhou Jingze's smile was very bright tonight. It contrasted with the shyness on Su Sui's face. But this was a sign of their relationship warming up. Watching Zhou Jingze and Baiyu standing intimately together. Although it wasn't the first time seeing it, Su Sui's heart still felt a painful sting. "Don't worry, Sui darling, Zhou Jingze's heart belongs to you." In the quiet night, Su Sui and Zhou Jingze walked side by side on their way to the gathering. Suddenly, a familiar female voice broke the beautiful atmosphere. Su Sui recognized the voice. It was Baiyu, who had helped him not long ago. Zhou Jingze naturally recognized it too. He gestured to Su Sui to stay put. "I'll go check it out," because Zhou Jingze guessed the situation inside. He did this to ensure Su Sui's safety. At that moment, Baiyu was surrounded by 3 thugs in an alley. They were hitting on her with frivolous tones. Despite this, he didn't feel a bit scared. He also despised them from the bottom of his heart. "As if you're worthy." This successfully provoked the thugs' anger. They immediately raised their fists to teach him a lesson. Zhou Jingze appeared just in time. He called out to Baiyu, another heroic rescue, and it was the person he liked. Needless to say how happy Baiyu was. He immediately ran eagerly to Zhou Jingze's side. Then pushing his luck, he clung to his arm. Still harboring ulterior motives, he announced to the thugs, "We're together. He's my boyfriend." Zhou Jingze instinctively wanted to break free, but he was held even tighter. Zhou Jingze looked thoughtfully at Baiyu. It seemed he hadn't given up on him yet. However, the thugs had also heard of Zhou Jingze's reputation. Afraid he might settle scores with them, they all ran away. The scene before him was fully captured by Su Sui. He naturally heard their conversation too. Although he knew Zhou Jingze and Baiyu were acting, seeing them standing together was so glaring. A twinge of pain arose. Yet he comforted himself. It's not the first time seeing this. "Don't be sad. It's nothing." Baiyu thought Zhou Jingze had a change of heart, but was doused with cold water. "They've all left. Why aren't you letting go? He didn't expect him to cut ties so thoroughly, not even willing to give a bit of warmth. He could only silently let go. After all, they were once friends. Zhou Jinza asked how he ended up here. Bai Yu didn't tell the truth, instead sulkily saying it's because he's beautiful, blaming him for not cherishing it. Zhou Jinza lowered his gaze, smiling self-mockingly. He didn't even know his own future. How could he cherish others? But now he had something more important to do, because there was a girl still waiting for him. But Bai Yu still wouldn't give up, grabbing Zhou Jinza's clothes, wanting Zhou Jinza to stay by his side longer. But for every 10 sentences he said, Zhou Jinza only coldly replied with a few words. His heart had long since drifted towards that slender figure. He just stood there, yet it was enough to evoke his longing desire. And Bai Yu's voice had become a bunch of noise at this moment, making Zhou Jinza feel annoyed and impatient. I have to go. Someone's waiting for me. Zhou Jinza couldn't see Su Sui's excellence. Naturally, other people of the opposite sex would covet him. So when he saw a guy standing next to Su Sui, Zhou Jinza got jealous. Stay away from that guy. He's no good. Su Sui curiously asked, what about you then? The night temperature was very low. Su Sui paced on the spot, waiting for Zhou Jinza to return. If it wasn't true love, he might have gone to the gathering place first. Suddenly, a pair of shoes appeared in front of him. Su Sui, caught off guard, stumbled in surprise. The person in front of him opened his arms to steady Su Sui, while teasingly saying, classmate, no need to bow so deeply to me. Su Sui stood up, immediately keeping his distance, and apologized to him. The moment the man saw Su Sui, he was overjoyed. Isn't this the sweet girl who plays the drums? Blushing, he cleared his throat, wanting to ask for his contact information. He first introduced himself, praising Su Sui's performance. Then he used Zhou Jinza and Sheng Nanzhou's fame to get closer to Su Sui. He even shamelessly called him junior sister. Finally, he took out his phone, showing his WeChat QR code. He told Su Sui to contact him if needed in the future. His string of advances left Su Sui unable to get a word in, but he didn't want to casually add a stranger's number. Just then he heard someone calling his name. Su Sui turned around in surprise. It was Zhou Jinza returning. Seeing that he hadn't moved, he coldly urged him to come over. Indeed, the favored one is different. Bai Yu didn't get such good treatment. From the moment Zhou Jinza appeared, Su Sui couldn't take his eyes off him. He automatically stepped closer to him. That guy still tried to keep Su Sui there. But how could Zhou Jinza give him a chance? He stood in front of Su Sui and questioned, do you need something? The guy immediately smiled, patting Zhou Jinza's back. He didn't dare mention the WeChat thing, only saying he was also going to the celebration party and wanted to walk together. Who said we're walking together? Daring to do, but not to admit. What right do you have to walk with him? After removing the guy's hand, Zhou Jinza patted where he had touched. You go ahead and get a taxi first. Then he casually took out some mint candy from his pocket. He poured one into his mouth. Looking at his disgruntled expression, he urged, hurry up and go. Dare to mess with our Zhou's people, and you'll regret it. The guy was intimidated by Zhou Jinza's aura. He only dared to give the middle finger when he was far away. Zhou Jinza dismissed it as childish behavior, lightly muttering, idiot. Su Sui heard the sound but couldn't make out the words, so he asked him. Zhou Jinza completely lost his previous arrogant demeanor, very sheepishly saying, nothing. Want some candy? Since that time at the convenience store, Su Sui had fallen in love with mint candy. He reached out and took 2 pieces. While Su Sui was eating the candy, Zhou Jinza softly warned, stay away from that guy. He's no good. Hearing his sudden concern, Su Sui felt a warmth in his heart. He instinctively looked at him with expectant eyes. What about you? The usually composed Zhou Jinza felt his heart flutter at this moment. His eyes were too clear, too beautiful, making him afraid to taint them even slightly. Of course, I'm not a good person either. Then, without waiting for Su Sui to speak, he changed the subject, urging them to hurry to the gathering. Suddenly remembering what that guy said earlier, there was one thing he forgot to tell Xue Xue. His girl was excellent and deserved praise. Your performance tonight was outstanding. Today was Zhou Jinza's vegetarian day. Zhou Jinza silently walked back to Su Sui's side. He saw a guy with a red face chatting with Su Sui. He stood behind Su Sui, wanting to see what he was up to, until the guy scratched his head shyly and showed his phone, saying, Junior sister, let's exchange contact information. Su Sui looked embarrassed, about to find an excuse to refuse. But Zhou Jinza felt angry, his jealousy flaring up. How dare they try to steal his person right in front of him? He immediately emitted a cold aura comparable to Siberian winds. Dare to steal my person? I'll freeze you into a popsicle. The guy was blown into a sneezing fit, inadvertently dropping his phone. There was a pause sound. The guy's heart shattered along with it. He crouched down, holding his phone and wailing, "Oh crap, this is my new model. Where did this cold wind come from?" Zhou Jinza quickly stood in front of Su Sui, coldly snorting. Smiles don't disappear, they just transfer. Compared to the guy's pained expression, Zhou Jinza was delighted at his misfortune. That'll teach you to try and steal my person. Let's see if you dare next time. The pain of unrequited love is well known. Although recently, Su Sui and Zhou Jinza's relationship had gotten a bit closer, Su Sui's heart still raced when facing Zhou Jinza. He got very nervous seeing other girls chat with him. His heart would ache silently, feeling lost. Sheng Nanzhou deeply understood this feeling. At this moment, he was drinking alone in the private room. He heard Su Sui ask where Wu Qinshi was. He glanced over, his words full of jealousy. Who knows, probably lured away by some random guy. Su Sui didn't understand, tilting his head. Speak of the devil. Hu Qianqian excitedly came looking for Su Sui, asking for ice water. Drinking ice water in winter isn't good, so he poured her a glass of warm water instead. She gulped it down quickly in one go. Like drinking an energy drink, she was instantly revitalized. Then she eagerly shared with Su Sui about meeting a guy who made her heart flutter. She talked excitedly about their encounter, her disappointment when he rejected her advances, and her anxiety about how to pursue him. And after learning his name, she grinned, saying he couldn't escape now. Su Sui found it all rather scary. Suddenly, he understood what Sheng Nanzhou meant earlier. In stark contrast to Wu Qinshi's excitement, Sheng Nanzhou looked very gloomy. At this moment, Su Sui seemed to realize he liked Wu Qinshi. However, since Sheng Nanzhou didn't show any intention of discussing it, Su Sui didn't ask further. Suddenly, a guy called out to him. Smiling, he handed over a box of Ludo. Seeing no ill intent, Su Sui agreed to play together. But his thoughts were all on Zhou Jinza. They were only separated by Sheng Nanzhou. He really wanted to go talk to him. This was the time to muster up courage. Otherwise, the opportunity might be seized by others, as there were other girls who also wanted to chat with Zhou Jinza. Su Sui listened to their conversation, sadly lowering his eyes. One of the girls deliberately raised her voice to attract Zhou Jinza's attention. She then sat down next to him. Using the excuse of caring about his drinking, she started a conversation. Sheng Nanzhou quickly replied there was no need to worry. Suddenly remembering a familiar accompaniment, he suggested Zhou Jinza go up to sing. Hearing this, the girl's face lit up, and she joined in encouraging him. Zhou Jinza put down his empty glass and flatly refused. A guy behind him laughed and mocked, asking if it was because he sang badly. But faced with their provocation, Zhou Jinza didn't care. Looking at the eaten strawberry cake, he commented it was quite sweet. Su Sui had been paying attention to their movements, completely forgetting he was playing a game with others. Hearing the urging, he guiltily withdrew his gaze. Suddenly, Zhou Jinza's phone vibrated. He coldly unlocked it, looking at the content. Then he stood up, put on his coat, and told Sheng Nanzhou he had to leave for another gathering. Su Sui just stared blankly at his retreating figure. His heart seemed to leave with him at that moment. They hadn't spoken a single word all evening, and who knew when they'd meet again. Suddenly, a hand appeared and grabbed him. Wu Qinshi anxiously shouted, "You can't leave." Zhou Jinza looked confused. Why not? Wu Qinshi looked a bit flustered. Because tonight is Christmas Eve. Clearly, this reason wasn't convincing enough. So she leaned in and whispered something in his ear. After hearing Hu Qianqian's reason, Zhou Jinza really changed his mind. Then they exchanged mysterious glances, looking at Su Sui playing games nearby. 15 minutes later, Su Sui happily exclaimed, "I won." As soon as he said that, the lights went out. He immediately turned back anxiously, worried about Zhou Jinza's condition because he had claustrophobia. Luckily, his phone had battery this time. He turned on the flashlight and gently called out, "Zhou Jinza, I'm here." Su Sui was very happy tonight because Zhou Jinza not only sang a song for him, but more importantly, he finally remembered his name. Seeing the lights go out in the room, Su Sui immediately called out Zhou Jinza's name anxiously. This concern alone was enough to warm Zhou Jinza's heart, especially since Su Sui was quite a catch himself. The charm he exuded on stage tonight had captivated not only him, but also boys from both campuses. Seeing that Zhou Jinza's claustrophobia phobia didn't act up, Su Sui finally let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, he heard the sound of party poppers. It startled Su Sui. Then came a chorus of happy birthday to you. Everyone followed behind Hu Qianqian, pushing in a strawberry cake. My dear Sui Sui. The earlier scare had now turned into a double and triple surprise. Su Sui's eyes welled up with tears, touched to the point of almost crying. Unable to hold back anymore, he ran towards Hu Qianqian and hugged her, thanking everyone with a voice choked with emotion. Seeing Su Sui so happy, they felt their mission was accomplished. Of course, a birthday wouldn't be complete without making a wish and blowing out candles. Su Sui's wish was simple. He hoped for the health of his family and friends, and that they could live well. He didn't mention anything about Zhou Jinza falling for him. With this little interlude, the atmosphere became even more lively. Su Sui picked up his glass and took a small sip. Though the taste of alcohol was a bit bitter, Su Sui still wore a happy smile. Don't rush. There's still one more surprise waiting for you. Suddenly, a familiar and beautiful voice came from nearby. It was Zhou Jinza singing with a microphone, as if sensing Su Sui's gaze. Zhou Jinza slowly looked in his direction. Their eyes met, and at that moment, Su Sui's heart raced. He was stunned by Zhou Jinza's surprise. Those who had said Zhou Jinza couldn't sing were now eating their words. The 3-minute song ended quickly, but some people still wanted more and asked for another song. Zhou Jinza refused without hesitation. Now it was his turn to offer birthday wishes. Zhou Jinza slowly walked towards Su Sui. Su Sui watched him in shock, his heart beating faster as Zhou Jinza approached. Finally, he stopped half a meter away from Su Sui, looking at him with gentle eyes. Happy birthday, Su Sui. May you be happy every day. Back in the dorm, Su Sui listened to Yellow Big Door while savoring Zhou Jinza's voice. This was the most unforgettable birthday Su Sui had ever had. Not only was everyone there for him, but Zhou Jinza also specially sang a song for him and wished him happiness every day. The bubbles of joy in his heart made Su Sui blush uncontrollably. He had to share this happiness. Otherwise, it would overflow from his heart. In the half year since coming here, his relationship with Zhou Jinza had grown closer step by step. It really felt like a dream. Before, they were like separated by the Milky Way. Now, I've finally managed to make him notice me through my own efforts. His proactive approach had finally yielded results. Not long after he posted on his moments, everyone, including Zhou Jinza, had liked it. He wondered if Zhou Jinza had guessed the confession in his moments post. But it was okay if he hadn't. He could just take Zhou Jinza's like as a brief fantasy, a response to his persistent pursuit. There was good news about Su Sui's secret crush, because Zhou Jinza was caught off guard for the second time. After Su Sui's brilliant performance on the Firefly music stage last time, he had attracted a swarm of admirers. They buzzed around him like bees, making it really annoying and distracting. After fermenting overnight, Su Song didn't know that he had become the crush of girls from 2 campuses. Liang Shuang had a mischievous look as she examined Su Song's confused expression. He only found out about it when he saw the viral posts. However, Su Song didn't feel very happy about it. Instead, Liang Shuang took the opportunity to encourage Su Sui to date someone, but Su Sui politely declined. Liang Shuang found it strange and asked if he had dated before. He wanted to, but that person hadn't even noticed his existence. This shocked Liang Shuang even more. Further encouragement was useless. His heart only had room for Zhou Jinza. At this moment, Hu Qianqi interrupted their conversation. She shared some shocking news. Sui Sui, I feel like my uncle likes you. Su Sui's heart skipped a beat, and he blushed in shock. But he quickly calmed down and faced reality. How could that be? Everyone knows he likes charming women. It's okay. I have evidence to prove it. Last night, everyone asked him to sing, but he ignored them. However, he voluntarily sang for your birthday. This is unprecedented. Mentioning this, he couldn't help but feel happy. He quickly averted his gaze to avoid Hu Qianqi noticing his unusual reaction. But Hu Qianqi didn't notice, as she was immersed in this surprising discovery. Her intuition was usually correct, so she wanted to create opportunities for them to see how Zhou Jinza reacts to Su Sui, whether it's special or not. Hearing this news, Su Sui felt both happy and worried. He was happy that he could confirm his feelings, but worried about what to do if Zhou Jingzi still didn't like him. But this news was like rain after a long drought, attracting his heart. Even though he knew he shouldn't take it seriously, he wanted to try even if there was only a 0.01% chance. Perhaps Zhou Jingzi really did like him a little bit. With Su Sui's permission, Hu Qinshi took action immediately. On Friday evening, she arranged for them to meet alone. Su Sui was surprised to see Zhou Jingzi at the door, asking, "Why is it you?" Zhou Jingzi sounded annoyed. "What? Is this our first time meeting? Am I not good enough?" "Of course not. I just wasn't mentally prepared. I thought Hu Qinshi was the one who invited me." While Zhou Jingzi was calling to find someone, Su Sui suddenly had a bad feeling. His guess was right. Wu Qinshi had snuck away, claiming a stomachache. Su Sui immediately became visibly flustered. Seeing Su Sui's panicked look, Zhou Jingzi felt a bit uncomfortable. "What? You don't want to?" This question made Su Sui even more nervous. He quickly waved his hands in denial. "How could I not want to? This is what I've been hoping for. It's just that everything happened so suddenly." To show his apology, he decided to treat him to a meal. When ordering, Su Sui specifically ordered a bowl without green onions and cilantro. Suddenly, Zhou Jingzi leaned over and corrected, "Make it two, without green onions and cilantro." "Thank you." Seeing that Su Sui had the same food preferences, Zhou Jingzi was a bit happy. "What a coincidence. You don't eat cilantro either." Seeing the smile right in front of him, Su Sui was mesmerized. Overjoyed, he nodded and firmly denied that he ate green onions and cilantro. The atmosphere was just right. Suddenly, the first admirer flew over to find Su Sui right in front of Zhou Jingzi. After expressing her admiration, she wanted to add him on WeChat. However, Su Sui politely declined, citing his focus on studies. Just then, the food pickup reminder came. Su Sui turned away and left with Zhou Jingzi to get their food. Sitting at the table, Su Sui finally showed his nervousness. In front of Zhou Jingzi decided to divert his attention. "You're quite popular lately, huh?" Hearing his teasing, Su Sui showed a shy, girlish expression. "Don't laugh at me." Unexpectedly, this side of Su Sui made people around them even more interested. "Is that Su Song? Wow, he looks even better in person than in the video." Zhou Jingzi heard the voices and glanced at them sideways, suddenly feeling very gloomy. But he turned back with a smile, continuing to joke with Su Sui in this mood. "Do people have to queue up to pursue you now?" If only he could realize his own feelings at this moment, it would be great. Perhaps they wouldn't have to be apart for so long later. Su Sui's happiness was short-lived. He originally thought Zhou Jingzi wanted to pursue him. This made Su Sui's entire face turn red, leaving him dumbfounded. But it turned out to be just another one of Zhou Jingzi's pranks. He was just saying that Su Sui was popular at school. This made Su Sui's soaring heart plummet to the bottom. He thought his years of secret love were finally going to bear fruit, but it was just his own wishful thinking. Back at the dorm, Su Song had already buried the pain in his heart. Wu Qinshi excitedly came over to inquire. "Not much progress. We just had a simple meal. Your uncle sees me as a friend." Hearing this result left Wu Qinshi very confused. Her intuition was usually very accurate, but Su Song wouldn't lie. So where did things go wrong? But this puzzle could be put aside for now. After all, it was just the two of them in the dorm now. She wanted to verify another intuition. "Do you like Zhou Jingzi?" Su Sui's heart skipped a beat, his face showing surprise. "How did you know?" The look in one's eyes when they like someone can't be hidden. Your attitude toward Zhou Jingzi is also very different. You look at Guanxi eyes with a bit of coldness, but you easily blush when facing Zhou Jingzi. So his feelings couldn't be hidden at all and were easily seen through. But he felt relieved instead. Cece was one of his few good friends. Now that he had someone to confide in, he wouldn't have to bear the emotions of his secret love alone. He then admitted his feelings, gesturing for her not to tell anyone. Wu Qinshi was very reliable and immediately made a zipping motion across her lips to Su Sui. Just then, Liang Shuang returned from the cafeteria. Seeing their gestures, she looked a bit confused. It seemed this secret hadn't been overheard by her. So Su Sui nervously changed the subject. "What good things did you bring back?" "Of course, dumplings with cilantro filling." Su Sui's eyes lit up immediately, extremely happy, while Hu Qinshi looked terrified. Although Su Sui's secret love had been discovered, the situation didn't change much. Everyone was preparing for final exams. At this time, Huqinshi invited Su Sui to study at a cat cafe. When leaving, 1017 suddenly acted clingily towards Su Sui. It only settled down after being carried out. It wasn't afraid of strangers either, lying obediently next to Su Sui, as if it had gained spiritual awareness. From being skinny before to now becoming a fat ball, it was living quite comfortably. After 3 hours like this, Su Sui finished reviewing and prepared to go eat. But when he looked down, oh no, 1017, who was originally sleeping next to him, was gone. Wu Qinshi saw the anxiety in Su Sui's eyes. She told him not to worry. They could split up and search the cat cafe. So the two of them called out 1017, one after another. Su Sui bent down to search for its figure. Suddenly, he heard a meow that made him freeze. At that moment, it was lying on a boy's lap, looking extremely comfortable. So Su Sui hunched over and softly called out 1017. Come here quickly. It turned out that boy was Zhou Jingzi. He heard the voice and turned to look at Su Sui. Their eyes met, and it was quite awkward. Zhou Jingzi guessed Su Sui's intention and asked, "Your cat?" Su Sui just stood up, staring at him blankly, as if answering. Zhou Jingzi looked thoughtful as he gazed at Su Sui. His hand was scratching 1017's chin, making it purr contentedly. Cats are tsundere animals. If it's not someone they're familiar with, they won't develop a sense of dependence. So there was only one truth. 1017 wasn't a stray cat. Zhou Jingzi was its original owner. Zhou Jingzi liked to tease Su Sui whenever he met him. He only needed to say that this was the cat he lost 3 months ago. Seeing Su Sui's small hands clenched, looking slightly awkward, Sheng Nanzhou couldn't bear it and took the initiative to explain. Su Sui stared with round eyes, very confused. Thinking back to the dinner 3 months ago, he indeed heard the mention that Zhou Jingzi had lost a cat named Wei. Now the memories and reality matched up. His heart skipped a beat, very shocked. So I picked up his lost cat. Realizing this fact made Su Sui uneasy again. At this crucial moment, it was up to Hu Qinshi to help. She revealed a mischievous smile. Oh, stop arguing. Is that your cat? Zhou Jingzi didn't refute for once. Su Sui's face blushed, very shy. The bubbles of happiness in his heart were already bursting and boiling. Later, Su Sui and Hu Qinshi came to sit with them. Talking about why they came here, it was because the library was too noisy. They thought the cafe would be better, but it wasn't. Zhou Jingzi's face attracted too much attention, with girls constantly coming to chat him up. Compared to Sheng Nanzhou's jealousy, Zhou Jingzi seemed used to it and didn't react much. But he was very pleased with 1017's changes. He smiled at Su Sui, praising, "You've taken good care of him. He's gained quite a bit of weight." Hearing his praise, Su Sui couldn't help but worry, afraid that 1017 would be taken away. He was very reluctant. Attentive as he was, Zhou Jingzi saw Su Sui's concern, and his joy was instantly dampened. But he also just had a thought. Being able to fatten him up like a ball in 3 months showed that Su Sui truly loved him. So Zhou Jingzi didn't force anything. "Don't worry, it's up to you." Hearing his answer truly delighted Su Sui. He was extremely grateful. However, the school would soon be on winter break. It wouldn't be convenient to take him home then. He wanted to ask Zhou Jingzi to take care of him. Just as Zhou Jingzi was about to answer, suddenly, a hello was heard, attracting Su Sui's attention. It was another pretty girl coming over to chat using the excuse of having cats at home. Su Sui felt a pang in his heart and hurriedly lowered his head to hide his discomfort. But Zhou Jingzi saw it all. He didn't even bother to look at her and directly refused. "Sorry, my cat tends to bite people." Hearing Zhou Jingzi's response shocked Su Sui for the second time. Only after the girl walked away did he feel relieved, as if a weight had been lifted. Fortunately, he still had a chance. On the first day of the holiday, Su Sui came to Zhou Jingzi's house as promised. Hui Darren greeted him like seeing its mistress, circling around Su Sui super enthusiastically, spinning like crazy. Zhou Jingzi, who came out right after, got jealous. "Don't forget who your real caretaker is." This instantly dampened Hui Darren's enthusiasm, making it let out a low whimper. After coming in, Su Sui brought all of 1017's belongings. Looking at these cute things, Zhou Jingzi furrowed his brows, feeling quite troubled. "Su Sui, I still have the things I used to raise him before." Su Sui looked slightly embarrassed, realizing he might have been too anxious. Nevertheless, he still mentioned that the cat was allergic to pollen. This time, Zhou Jingzi didn't say much. He took the opportunity to chat with Su Sui, asking where his home was. Learning that his home was in the south, far from here, he was curious why he came so far for university. Feeling the warmth in his hands, Su Sui smiled gently. Of course, it's because of you. But he didn't tell the truth, only saying he got used to it after transferring high schools and that he liked snow. Zhou Jingzi treated it as casual conversation, not paying much attention. Suddenly, he asked about his departure time. Only then did he remember he had to catch a train. As he hurriedly walked out, he repeatedly reminded Zhou Jingzi to take good care of 1017. As he was about to reach the door, Zhou Jingzi called out Su Sui. He was seen picking up his car keys, putting on his thick coat. He was seen swinging the key ring, smiling. "I'll drive you." His usual thoughtfulness, just like in high school, made Su Sui's heart flutter. This was the first time Su Sui discovered how negative Zhou Jingzi's mindset was. The sports he liked were increasingly dangerous. Compared to Su Sui's concern for him, he joked half-heartedly, "It doesn't matter. No one cares about me. I can only waste time. Even if I die on some Sunset Boulevard one day, it would be worth it." But the pain hidden beneath his smile, only he knew. Perhaps he would be like his mother, forgotten by everyone even after death. Suddenly, Su Sui spoke up, startling Zhou Jingzi. "Sunrise is no less beautiful than sunset. Just wait a bit longer." Seeing the girl's serious expression, Zhou Jingzi was stunned. Then he slowly smiled. "That's right. After enduring the night, isn't it a new day?" Su Sui finally felt at ease and joked. After all, saying these things in front of a future doctor is a big taboo. Hearing this, Zhou Jingzi's smile became even brighter. It took nearly an hour to reach the high-speed rail station. Walking through the entrance, they heard the announcement that Su Sui's train was checking tickets. It was time for him to go. But thinking about not seeing him for the entire winter break, Su Sui felt empty inside. So he took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and carefully asked Zhou Jingzi to send him photos of 1017. This way, he could chat with him, not feel sad about not seeing him, and better hide his feelings for him. Zhou Jingzi agreed without much thought. Only at this moment did Su Sui smile again. He took the suitcase from his hand. Before leaving, he turned back to say goodbye. "Thank you for today. I'm off." Watching the girl's figure gradually disappear, he felt a tinge of reluctance. Finally, just before Su Sui checked in, he called out to her. Hearing his voice, Su Sui was incredulous. She quickly turned back to look at that tall figure. Zhou Jingzi was also smiling. "Teacher Su, see you next year." Su Sui was stunned by this sudden form of address. At this moment, the bustling crowd around them blurred into the background. Their gazes met in midair. If someone had pressed the shutter, it would have made a beautiful couple photo. Su Sui smiled. Watching Zhou Jingzi slowly, the smile on his lips grew wider. "All right, see you next year." Indeed, there was no need to be sad. When spring comes next year, they would meet again. In the evening, Su Sui returned to her home in Liying Town. The moment the door opened, she eagerly threw herself into her grandmother's arms. The old lady had tidied herself up nicely. The familiar scent made Su Sui feel at ease. She unconsciously nuzzled her grandmother. "You smell so nice. I want to sleep with you tonight." Grandmother was naturally delighted. Her granddaughter rarely came back, so even if she asked for stars from the sky, she would get them. Then, grandmother noticed that her granddaughter seemed to have lost weight. Su Sui felt guilty and tried to convince her grandmother that her eyes were playing tricks on her, then changed the subject. Speaking of the devil, Su's mother had just returned from buying groceries at the market. So late, Su Sui immediately took the things from her mother's hands. But she wanted to call Su Sui to accompany grandmother. The weather was cold. How could she let her mother work alone in the kitchen while she just waited to eat? Su's mother saw her daughter's filial piety. She showed a gratified smile. Unlike grandmother's care, mother cared about Su Sui's academic performance. Su Sui had never disappointed her mother and proudly informed her that she had won 2 awards. This made her mother even more pleased with her daughter's obedience. But the price hidden beneath this obedience was a result of Su Sui sacrificing everything just to cater to her preferences. Even Su Sui's friendships were interfered with. Hearing her mother ask about the bad elements, Su Sui's heart skipped a beat. For the first time, she lied to her mother. After playing the role of a good girl for so many years, now she just wanted to live for herself once. She didn't want her mother to know about Zhou Jing's existence. A few days later, Su Sui was tending to the flower pots on the balcony. Zhou Jing sent her some bad news. In the photo, 1017 had scratched itself due to an allergy. This made Su Sui's heart leap to her throat. She sent a string of messages to Zhou Jingza, her worry evident in every word. She even forgot she was home and wanted to go visit directly. Zhou Jingza calmly replied with 2 words, "Don't worry." This instantly calmed Su Sui's agitated heart. Then he sent her his location. It turned out Zhou Jingza was already preparing to take 1017 to the hospital. However, to reassure her more, he reported every step to Su Sui, including the doctor's treatment process for 1017. Su Sui sat quietly on the balcony, reading Zhou Jing's messages, as if she was there accompanying him. In the end, it wasn't a big problem. Just 3 days of 4 drip, and it would be fine. Only then did she finally let go of her worry. She never thought that what she said casually before would come true. Fortunately, with him there, things were handled so meticulously, like the reliability and thoughtfulness of their younger days. Realizing it was already 1:30 past lunchtime, she wanted to order takeout for him. But feeling it might be too deliberate, she ended up just sending a casual reminder. Actually, Su Sui, you could be a bit braver. This was a perfect opportunity to deepen your relationship. What a shame to waste the chance 1017 created. So in the end, Zhou Jingza only coldly replied with a single word. For the next 3 days, Zhou Jingza seemed very busy and didn't reply to any messages. But Su Sui was worried about 1017's condition. It made her lose interest in reading books. She just stared blankly at her phone, because she had sent a message that still hadn't been answered. Suddenly, she was startled by the ringtone of a video call from Zhou Jingza. Picking up the phone, her heart was pounding nonstop at this moment. This was their first video call. She took a deep breath to calm her racing heart before daring to answer. Unexpectedly, the video started with a shock. On the other end was Zhou Jing's bare chest. It made Su Sui's suppressed emotion surge again. Her heart beat even more forcefully than before. Her face and ears turned bright red.